Welcome back to the Rodcast, as we like to call it, the Hump Day edition of the Rodcast. And yes, we are jam-packed, man. The NFL headlines overrunneth, right? No doubt about it. We'll get into plenty of them. We got NFL trades to talk about. We'll get into the Deontay Johnson trade to the Ravens. We'll also get into the trade that was made by the Minnesota Vikings. They made a trade for an offensive lineman. The Colts decided to bench Anthony Richardson. We'll get into that story that affects the Houston Texans. Bad news for the Texans. Speaking of, Stephon Diggs will be out for the season. Turns out that injury that he sustained in that Colts game, torn ACL. Unfortunately. So we'll get to that, how that affects the Texans and their season. We'll also talk about some Texas football, as we always do. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain, talking Texas football. Jahdae Barron is a semifinalist for the second year in a row, semifinalist for the Jim Thorpe Award. We'll talk about that and get into it a little bit. There's also some other topics that I want to get into. We got your usual favorites on the show. We got Raj Rant. We got Who Said That. We got What the Facts, What the Stats. We got topics for the big fat poll of the day. We are loaded, but before we do any of that, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He's one of the hardest working members of the Aryan family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but pretty damn sure the man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor, Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I thought we were getting to the point in the season where bugs were not going to be as big of an issue and insects is not a big of an issue. I got stung by a wasp twice yesterday.
Twice in the same day?
Twice. Very, very short procession from each other. I have a little garden of peppers that I have, and I went out to water them. And as I was going out, I got stung on the arm. And as I went back into the house, got stung on the leg, and just not fun at all. Not a fan of wasps deciding that they're just going to set up right by a front door. Seems like a bad place to set up if you're a wasp. And then
was it a nest right there? Was it a nest?
I never saw the nest. Never saw the nest.
Okay.
Never saw the nest. Just sprayed wasp spray kind of willy-nilly around there.
Oh, yeah.
just went after.
Just killing all random insects.
I don't care at that point. I got stung twice. At that point, it was over. Yeah. Like, I'm not getting stung a third time.
Just an eco killer, just killing all.
Don't care anymore. Don't care anymore.
Indiscriminately.
Get stung that second time.
I don't like that. I haven't been stung in a while, so I'm with you. I see anything that can sting with the stinger, and yes.
No, because it was. So I went, and it was to get home, you water the garden. So water the garden every morning. Get some peppers out there, trying to grow them up.
Good for you, because it ain't raining. So
I got to water the garden. It's supposed to rain though this week, so we'll see.
I felt some sprinkles in the air.
Bit this morning.
There was a little bit. Yeah, there's a little drizzle in the air, but I don't know where it went. It came back out here now, and it went away. I came out here this year, like at 4 something in the morning. And I was like, oh my god. There's drizzle in there. It's going to be raining during the show. Nope, no rain.
Not yet.
But
yeah, so I came back, and then I was like, well, I'm going to go vote. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go vote today. That was in the schedule. I had to go around from my back door out the fence, so it wasn't going through the front door again.
Because, you got stung twice.
So twice. It feels like
so that
third time it's on me, right?
No doubt. Come on. It's obviously a warning. They're letting you know, like, hey, man, don't come this area. Like, stay away from this place. That's why I said you got to go look for the nest. It's got to be around there. They got to be protecting something.
And so, so I went out, and then you sprayed over there. When I went through the gate, I just saw one by there, and he kind of came over towards me again.
He's like guard. Run, somebody's like a scout or something. Yeah.
So I don't know what it was. They're doing some work on the house next door. I don't know. Maybe they disturbed something over there. And they came over.
Could have. Yeah.
And they were pissed off. And I was like, I'm not working on that house. Go get them.
They don't know, man. They just say they just know that somebody came over there, and you're right. They probably disturbed their nest or whatever. I don't mess with what. When I see a nest, I go to work and I put on layers, everything, and I get the spray, I get the broom, whatever I need. Sometimes it's a water hose. Ain't no telling what my utensil or my method's gonna be, but I'm gonna get the job done. I haven't been stung in a while. I'm trying to keep that streak going.
No,
and
that's
twice in the same day.
Twice in the same day. I got ate up by mosquitoes like last week, so I still got some mosquito bites. It was just everything seeming to go wrong with bugs. I'm like,
they like your backyard. You gotta help.
Late October. No, the mosquitoes are a different backyard. Different backyard I was in that I got the mosquitoes in me. It was just brutal overall. Brutal.
It's supposed to be fall, so getting closer to
to that not being such a problem, but not there yet. Apparently, not there yet.
Damn right. That's crazy.
Let me introduce my co-host. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is a new Rod father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
Thank you for the intro, brother. I appreciate that. Yeah, and man, lots of NFL headlines to get to. As I said,
Yes.
I mean, like I said, our cup runneth over. Right, we'll try to get to everything. There's also some Jerry Jones audio that we'll get to from yesterday. Audio is fitting because essentially, in the midst of all these moves being made, Jerry's just saying, "I got faith in our guys. I got faith in our guys." Still has not made a move. All the contenders are making moves. I've been talking about this for 2 weeks now. The teams that think they're close, they're being very meticulous, and they're being urgent, right, in their need to acquire talent and to fill whatever hole they got on the roster, no matter how quickly it appears. I mean, you saw Minnesota, their starting tackle got hurt. Christian Darrisaw got hurt on Thursday, right? And I believe that game, and then they decided now within a week, all right, you know what? We need to do something now. We got a backup there, but that's not good enough. You see how quickly these teams are doing. I mean, obviously we talked about the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes with DeAndre Hopkins. As soon as Rashee Rice goes down, there's an urgency there to fill that hole. We've talked about Lamar. I haven't talked about Lamar Jackson, but Josh Allen. We talked about We'll get to Lamar Jackson. Josh Allen, and how, he didn't have any weapons. He was playing a lot of hero ball. They bring in Amari Cooper. He gets Amari Cooper. Now we'll get into, of course, the Ravens. All right. The Ravens, they look like they may need a little bit something more on offense because they're not sure about Zay Flowers. They're not sure about, they brought in some really good wide receivers, but they're more of a tight end driven offense. Rashad Bateman hasn't been a consistent piece for him as a wide receiver. So they're going to add another one. Like, hey, man, why not add another one? Let's add Deontay Johnson. That way we have guys who can beat man-to-man across the board, and you got to play us in a little bit of man-to-man because you don't want to play too much zone against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, right? Because you're going to have to load up the box a lot, and you're going to have to put a spy on him a lot, and you're going to have to man up a lot. And they're just like, well, we're manning up, and the guys, they can't just beat it consistently. You want guys that can beat it consistently, so they're just going to bring in more guys. I mean, you see it over. I mean, these examples are all over the place, and yet the Cowboys have two of the most glaring deficiencies of any roster in the league. They can't run the ball because they don't have explosive talent in the backfield. They have the worst backfield in terms of personnel and talent in the league, and they don't have any run stuffing D tackles really. That's their expertise, that they are run stuffing D tackles. They don't have that kind of plug. They don't have that, and that is also right now hurting them. And Jerry wants us to believe that there are no players available. He keeps saying that.
No, and they've actually extended the trade deadline another week this last season. They've extended it before because the concept is we want more trades because trades bring eyes to the league and makes the game better down the stretch because you get better players playing down the entire season. Now you have to judge that back and forth that you don't want teams basically doing fire sales really late in the season and ruining their teams. But at the same point, they've extended another week. So normally you'd be done by now. Normally it's after week 8. Normally this would be already post-trade deadline. They had to extend another week so they could do it. And teams this is one of the reasons they said a 17-game schedule. You don't know immediately. And some teams are kind of in that flux of I don't necessarily want to trade away players. But you say by week 9, by the end of week 9, you should know if you have any shot to make the playoffs. And you could be able to trade players away. And there's plenty of teams that understand where they're at and are willing to go out and try and get those draft picks and try and get more draft capital, understand extending windows, trying to get some other players in to say, well, let's just draft as many guys as we can, get these guys on a contract that we can afford, try and get some more young guys in, because especially places like a Carolina who's trading away some players right now, they understand free agents aren't going there right now.
Yeah, no one wants to go. Good, but it's good. It's good for those teams too. Yeah, they need to get some of those guys off their books, and they're resetting. Yeah, it's good for everybody. It really is one of those kind of win-win situations.
It is a win-win unless you do not get involved in it at all, and then you do not get to be in the wins.
Now that is true.
And we saw the Texans over the offseason did a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if they start to be in more conversations now.
Yeah, they're gonna have to. I would think so.
Just not knowing with a hamstring.
Yep. I was
how
going to
you're
say
going to
that.
be with Nico
I knock
Collins.
on wood. I'm hoping it. Yeah,
We-
I'm hoping. Yeah, and now I think you need to be more careful with him. I would. Now you cannot afford to kind of rush him back. You need to make sure because you're going to need him for the playoff run. The assumption is
Yeah.
it's arrogant of you, but you're going to make the playoffs.
Yes. Well, I
And
mean,
you got.
yeah.
Yeah, what I'm saying.
After you beat the Colts, you sit and you say, unless something goes terribly wrong, we should be able to win this
Hey,
division. It happens.
The injuries like that are that's kind of the terribly
Yes.
wrong, and another one to your other star receiver would be a
Yes.
terribly wrong. And yeah, so I would honestly, I think I'm with you. I think Texans make a move. I have no doubt Nick Caserio is
It's on the
already
phone,
in
yeah.
the kitchen. Yeah, he's already in the kitchen. I will say that they did not inquire at all about Deontay Johnson. So maybe they just think he was a fit or whatever. There was a report that, hey, did the Texans inquire about him? They did not. But I'm sure I got faith that Nick Caserio is already working on it.
No,
I really
that was one of the theories of why the Diggs news took so long to come out, was that they were trying to see if there was a trade market to bring in a wide receiver in before they announced that they were another wide receiver short. But
yeah,
that
so they wouldn't be so
wears,
desperate. So everybody would know how desperate they are.
Yeah, but that wears a little thin when everyone go, you haven't said he's okay though.
Yeah.
So until you say okay,
it hurts you. It hurts you in the trade market. It seems like, oh, you need him.
Yeah.
You need him
but
badly,
I think everybody knew that Diggs was probably done for the season when you didn't say that he wasn't done for the season.
Well, I agree with that too. Yeah, no, I agree. But either way, it's I mean, I think the Texans will try to get something done, and they now have to be very careful with Nico Collins. One thing though, I just think for Cowboys fans, it's frustrating. Do you remember the post rant interview that Jerry Jones did with 105 to the fan? This quote is coming back to haunt him. Because as you pointed out, they've moved the trade deadline because the NFL wants to incentivize teams. Hey, make moves. They would like the NBA-ification of the NFL. They want, just like the NBA's trade deadline is fast and furious, and everybody, is excited about it, and all this news is dropping all over the place. You can't even keep up with it. That's what they want for the NFL, and it's actually working. Teams are more active, and teams are trading more than they have in the past. Well, not all teams. Not the Dallas Cowboys. Can we get that quote? It's just a quick, it's like a 5-second quote, but Cowboys fans are leading into it now, because when he was asked in that interview, hey, basically, you guys gonna make a move? I mean, are you guys gonna acquire any talent? You guys gonna be active here before the trade deadline? This was the quote that's coming back to haunt Jerry Jones.
First of all, where are you gonna go to get any players? Seriously.
Seriously. Well, I'm gonna tell you, it seems like there are a lot of moves to be made. All right, where you gonna go get any players? Well, I mean, if you're a GM, which you are, Jerry, that is your job, to fill the holes in the roster. And I admire some of these teams and just how active and how urgent their moves are right now. How active they are and how urgent the moves are. They're filling hole. If they believe they got a chance, Baltimore is, probably, and it's more the AFC arms race than it is in the NFC. NFC, I don't think the teams are as active because they're not chasing the Kansas City Chiefs. The standard is not staring them in the face, and still undefeated. So I do think there's more. I don't know, that there's more activity. Seems to be a little bit more of a kind of all-in philosophy with teams on the AFC side, because he's destroying championship windows for teams. Your windows don't even matter anymore because I still got to face Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So what am I building for a window for? My window doesn't matter anymore. I just got to beat that guy.
Yeah.
So that's why teams like the Bills and the Ravens, who have been going up against them for a while, they're deciding, all right, you know what? Now's the time. The Jets are on a different journey, but they did acquire Devontae Adams, so they also were very active and got a big time piece before the trade deadline. I think you'll get more. Minnesota, that was like I said, once again, a move of urgency by them. They just lost their starting left tackle within a week. They go get Cam Robinson, trading I believe, and these are the conditional picks are just money. Oh man, you see more and more. You see more and more of that traded for a conditional pick. Both of the draft picks for Cam Robinson were conditional. A 5th round pick for Robinson, and then a 6th round pick in return. A conditional, 6th round pick. Basically, if it works out, hey, you get a 6th round pick. If it doesn't work out, then obviously you got to pay a higher price. So we'll get into it. We'll talk about the Anthony Richardson move, which Not surprised. I said it earlier. I said it last week, and I said it this week. I don't know how you can justify putting him out there. I don't know how you can justify putting him out there. And then in addition to him, that was before he took himself out of the game. That was before that.
Yeah.
That was actually just watching him and saying that he's completing less than 50% of his passes. That is almost inexcusable for a starting quarterback in the NFL. That's like your basic requirement. It's like, all right, you got to complete at least 50% of your passes. That gives us a decent chance to win. And he wasn't doing that. And some people are saying, well, this is gonna, stunt his development. It very well may stunt his development. But like I said, guys, he's not.
He's not going in the right direction.
Competent.
Though.
Yeah, he's not even playing a quarterback at a competent level.
No, that's what he said. That in the first half against the Texans last week, he was 2 for 15.
Yeah, dude, you can't justify putting him up. You're like, it's going to hurt his development. Like, dude, he's 2 of 15.
2 of 15.
There is no development right now. Like, there's nothing. No. We got to start back at square one.
He's basically just chunking the ball downfield.
Yeah.
And hoping that it works.
Pretty much.
That's the entire Colts offense of throwing the ball is run downfield. I'm going to chunk it down there. And I got a hell of an arm, so it's going to go. So if you can get break coverage or you can get, a little bit out, maybe you can run underneath it and get it, but also maybe it'll just fall wherever. And if you're in coverage, you're pretty much screwed because it's not going to be like a well-thrown ball. So it's ridiculous. That 2 for 15 number is crazy.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know how you can't really justify putting him out there now. And I think both things can be true. Is it going to hurt his development even more? Probably so. But right now, the floor is not that much further from where you are right now.
Well, like, are you gonna
bottom in terms of it bottoming out? Like he's as close to as bottomed out as you can be as a quarterback.
Yeah, and it's you get, hey, we probably shouldn't have started him right away. He was not ready, but in any sense, he should not have been starting by his rookie season. He should have
made that mistake.
We made the mistake. So at this point, we have to pull him back out, relearn some things, get him back in the flow, and get him ready to go because he's just not ready to go. And then he's getting hurt over and over again. So he's missing time. And when he's missing time, he's not practicing. So now, how are we progressing him then? Because now he's sitting 4 weeks rehabbing and not sitting out there throwing the football and getting better and running the offense and being in it. So he's not even getting better then. And then everybody gets to see what a real quarterback does when we put out Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's to me, like I said, he's not even. It'd be different if he was just playing at a competent level and there was, progress. There's no doubt he's regressing. And when he pulled himself out of the game, we'll get to it. We'll hear the audio actually a little bit later on the show, him justifying it. It's the optics of it. His rationale and his reason was sound, but the optics of it are horrible, terrible. I mean, you can't get any worse than that as a quarterback. You've never seen that before, really. You haven't seen that in the NFL, and you don't see it because there is kind of a code with quarterback. What should have been done was either his coach should have called the timeout, let him gather himself, or a veteran should have went over to the offensive coordinator, got the word, hey, call a run play, call a straight up run play, just a straight run play, no RPO, anything, call a run play. Just let them reset for a while, and then let's gather ourselves.
It was a 3rd and goal against the divisional opponent that if you win, you're leading the division and in it. And if you lose, you now lost the tiebreaker in 3 games. Like, it is a giant game and a giant moment.
I know. As I say, maybe call a timeout was the right way to go.
Because it's not just you pulled yourself out. It's a situational awareness. To pull yourself out on one of the biggest plays of your season.
Trust me, I get it. As I said, you can't. He violated the G code. It is, and there's no doubt when you made that move in that situation that the locker room had a reaction, and it was probably a visceral one. Like, what the is going?
I mean,
what
do you think there's
in that situation and at that position you can't do it? Cornerback can do it. Running back probably could do it. Wide receiver could do it. O-line actually probably can't do it either. O-line, you don't switch out like that either. O-line, there's more of a code there too. But at quarterback, oh man, there's certainly a code in, as Patrick mentioned, the most critical of moments. Yeah, so I think that was the last straw. Not only the regression was obvious, but the last straw was like, oh man, you're definitely not ready for this position. You're not ready for this. You don't even right now. You're not even showing the competitive sickness that you know what I mean,
You're
that
not
we
showing
need the position.
basic competitiveness.
yeah, exactly. We need that testicular fortitude. Some of those intangibles that we're not even talking about your technique. We're not talking about your mechanics. We're not talking about you operating the offense at a competent level. We're not talking about progression reads. No. We're just talking about having testicular fortitude and having the just the wherewithal, the awareness, all right, and the competitive sickness in you that wants to go out there and win. And at that moment, you lack those intangibles.
And to know full well that there's people that want to put Joe Flacco, like that your job is not safe as a starting quarterback, and then go, hey, you know it's 3rd and goal, big season. You know who we should put in to see if they can save the season? My backup. What could go wrong?
No, I don't. Like I said, also there's that too. So he wasn't even thinking about, hey, no, this guy wants my job. These guys
crazy.
He took Deshaun Watson's job and his team to the playoffs last year. He's a home wrecker. He's coming in, taking dudes' jobs and taking his team to the playoffs, then leaving, doing his thing. Came off the couch and did that with the Browns last year, and now he's gonna do. He wasn't even thinking about that either. As I said, that moment showed there's so much lacking. You know what I mean? In his game overall, whether you're talking about the tangible or the intangible, the measurable, the immeasurable, it's like, nah, man, you see, we screwed up. And I'm glad they admit it. They made a mistake. He's only had 10 starts. So they're admitting, like, hey, man, we made a mistake. We made a mistake. Clearly, that was on us. They're not going to give up on him. That would be hell. That would be stupid to give up on him because he's still way too young and has not been enough of a sample size. He's he is yet, and you didn't do him any favors by starting him early.
No,
but it's clearly time for someone else, and Joe Flacco is more than capable of doing it. We just saw it last year, him do it with the team. So we'll hear from him because, like I said, when he even in the post game, I don't think it's a must-lie situation, and he didn't lie. He like that was time to go. Yeah, I felt something in my, I was a little lightheaded at the time. I wasn't thinking clearly, and I had to when I tried to gather myself. I didn't have my thoughts with me, and I thought I'm not right now. It's not the right time for me to be something. Make up something. Make up something.
Isn't there someone in that locker room that can go up to him and be like, hey? Man, I get it. I get what you're going through right now, but I just want to let you know it's going to get really, really bad.
Yeah, man.
So we need to figure out right now what you're going to say, what you're going to go with, because I'm just telling you what you just did has not been done. And in 150 years of football, people don't do what you just did.
That's
not in a good way.
No, yeah. That's why it's a really tough game to play because you don't just do that. They don't just not that position, not at your position.
No, and look, and people have done what you did. They have the courtesy to limp off with a fake limp.
Yeah, no, with it.
And then you see him high stepping on the sideline, like I'm coming back in. Everybody goes, "What a fierce competitor! He's hurt, but he's playing."
You need to pull a Paul Pierce on that one. Just stay down or something. Down. You know what I mean? And then be like, I cramped up. I cramped up at the wrong time, and just slam on the desk or something. We need to see your Oscar chops at that time, man, or Emmy chops at that time. You know, this is not the time for you to be brutally honest with the media about what happened in that time. No. So we'll hear from him. It didn't even have the. You're right. That shows that that locker room doesn't necessarily. That to me, somebody should have embraced him then in the locker room and told him that too, and they didn't, because that's a violation. That means it's a violation of G code. Everybody in the locker room knew it, and yet nobody wanted to tell them straight up, "Hey, man, just so you know, people in the locker room now they're judging you, and they're a little bit upset that you decided in that moment that you want to take yourself out of the game when you're supposed to be our leader and you're supposed to lead."
Yeah, us. I think he got fooled by old Joe Flacco too. Joe Flacco thinks
Joe probably told him.
You think Joe's your buddy, don't you? Joe sit back there. No. Hey, man, honesty's the best option. Go on, buddy.
Which it usually is, but like I said, that's a must-lie situation. That's one of those when you're confronted with an ugly baby, you don't say it's an ugly baby.
No.
You say that's a beautiful baby, and I feel bad for Anthony Richardson. All right, so let's get to the Horn headlines first. Then we'll come back and play that audio. Then we'll just come right back and get to the Bird Orange Curtain. But first, let's get to updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Mavericks picked up a 120-114 win over the Timberwolves last night. Kyrie Irving had another big game, scoring 35, with Luka adding 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. Tonight, the Spurs take on the Thunder, who are the last remaining team without a loss in the Western Conference. In the World Series, the Yankees avoided a sweep with a big 11-4 win over the Dodgers. Anthony Volpe got the Yankees a lead with a grand slam in the third inning, and a Gleyber Torres 3-run homer in the eighth sealed the game for New York. Tonight, the Yankees will try to send the series back to L.A. with a Game 1 starters back, Garrett Cole and Jack Flaherty back on the mound. And in the NFL, the Texans announced yesterday that wide receiver Stephon Diggs will miss the remainder of the season with a torn ACL. The news leaves the Texans with a big hole at receiver with hopes that Nico Collins will be able to return off the IR in Week 10. And the Indianapolis Colts have decided to move to Joe Flacco as a starter for Week 9. Anthony Richardson has a league-bottom 44% completion percentage this season and the fourth worst QBR at 38.4. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Patrick, could you please pull that up, Anthony Richardson sound? It's just a quick 11-second cut of him being asked about why he pulled himself out of the game. This is the piece of audio that's really kind of ignited the controversy. I mean, when he took us out of the game, you don't know why a player does it, so it's hard to call out somebody because you don't really know what's going on. But when they ask you about it and you clarify, oh, this is what happened, this is really, I think after this is when probably management made up their mind. Somebody in management, I guarantee you, was furious about this, if not everybody, and probably said, hey, man, we've been talking about benching him. It's time. It's time. Let's do it. Here is Anthony Richardson. I'm talking about why he took himself out of the game in the third quarter.
Man, tired. I ain't gonna lie. That was a lot of running right there that I did, and I don't think I was gonna be able to go that next play. So I just, just told saying I just needed a break right there.
Oh, man. Except for the honesty, it's admirable. It is. Like I said, that's a must-stop situation. That's your wife when she's gained some weight. Do I look fat in this dress? Hell no. You look amazing in that dress. Ugly baby situation. Nobody who has an ugly baby knows they have an ugly baby because nobody will ever tell them because we are living in a society. All right. That you got to understand. You should have. It's something you got to make up, man. You got to make it up. Cramp. I think cramp is an easy one. Cramp. Everybody know. Oh, cramp. You can't go. You can't go. Yeah. There you go. Cramp be like, man, I was cramping up. And you're right. It would have been nice to get a little limp going in there. How are you gonna say you cramp and then you didn't have a limp or something? Yeah. Or you didn't stay down. You didn't grab the.
I mean, and it happens. That happens probably more than you know in football. Someone's like, man, I just can't go. So let me get up and just kind of just reel. Or you know what? Coach wants us to hurry up. I'm not gonna hurry up on this play. Well, get up and look like I'm beat up, so I ain't hurrying up on this play. Give me another 20 seconds to catch my breath. That's all I need.
Yep.
And we just won't hurry up, and I'll just get up real slow and hobble up and try and get things set. But that way, at least I can take a breath.
Dude, I have defended multiple 9 routes on the same drive without coming out. I'm talking about deep shots. Like, trust me. And there are times you come back after like that second one, and and you're in the midst of like a 7, 8, maybe 9 play drive, and they've thrown it deep twice on you. Everybody else still got their win because they throwing it deep on you, and you got to come back. They come back. Trust me. That sounds like, man, I should take myself out. I'm not taking myself out again. There ain't no damn way. I may back up. I may give more cushion. I may give him like 3-4 more yards of cushion, and then Robbie might bail out of there a little bit quicker. You know what I mean? Next time, just to make sure. Hey, man, if he tries to test me again, because they got a fresh wide receiver, by the way. They rotate him. All right, Robbie's still out there. All right, wide receiver. He's a new one. Fresh legs out there, ready to go, running another 9 route to test Rod B. Oh, trust me, it's happened before. And yeah, you will start to everybody knows the universal symbol. Yep. I got to come out of the game, and then there you go. Everybody knows the universal symbol. Nobody has to teach it to you. You've learned it since high school. Nope, not tapping that helmet. I'm gonna come back just like Patrick said, and I might tell my safety, hey, make sure you got my back on this one because I'm tired. And they see I'm tired too. I'm gonna try to stand up straight so I don't have my hands on my hips. But if they see I'm tired, they're probably gonna come after me again on some type of double move, or maybe they're gonna give me just a simple out route. But just so you know, I might need you to have my back. I'm with you. You don't come out.
No,
you don't tap out again. And that's a cornerback mentality. That's not even the quarterback.
No, and I think you see it like there's a lot of defensive players, but I think the one that is J.J. Watt. The amount of times you'd see him with like the bloody nose, and just he was always the heaviest breather. That every player like, J.J. Watt about to die?
Yeah,
and then they go run
and
and he'd go after the quarterback again, and he'd almost get a sack or you get a sack, and he'd get up and he'd be like, "Oh, do it again," and you're like, "Good Lord, Jay." But that's I ain't taking myself out.
You're right,
coach,
and you
better not take me out.
Is he about to die? Yes, he is feeling. How is he feel? Yes, he feels like he's about to die. That's exactly how you feel. You feel like your heart is about to burst out of your chest. But that's that's part of what makes the game so difficult as a player. And like I said, he lacked a lot of the immeasurables in that moment. I do feel bad for him. It is going to hurt his development. And there is a much broader question, which we'll talk about later on, the much broader discussion about the quarterback development in the NFL now. And how quick and really just you could argue the quick and hasty decisions that they make about quarterback development these days. They basically give up on quarterbacks way too quickly. There is no quarterback development anymore. The NFL is not a quarterback development league.
No,
the NFL.
I mean, there's an argument to be made that college football is no longer a quarterback development system.
It's better though. That's a good point with the transfer portal. You could argue that it's better for. Good point. So I would say it's better for you as a quarterback though. That if you want, this is why Sark's this week, and this is discussion. Maybe we'll just transition this into behind the Burns curtain. This is why Sark's vision for Texas is so unique and could be really successful.
Yes.
And be an outlier in college football. Because the truth is, and I'll hold on, make sure I get the quote here because it's from Matt Miller, who does a great job. He's the draft analyst for ESPN. And he follows Texas football too. He's actually a Longhorn fan. But he does a great job at NFL Draft Scout. And this is what he said about the Anthony Richardson situation. He said, scouts and agents are telling quarterbacks to not leave school until they've started 2+ years in college. They started at least 2+ years.
Yeah.
Said the NFL doesn't truly develop quarterbacks anymore outside of rare exceptions. And it's looking like he's right about that. Like if you just look at, all right, so you've had Anthony Richardson benched, he's 22. Bryce Young got benched, he was 23. Trey Lance got benched and traded. Bryce Young could be traded if somebody wants him to reset. I can see that being open. Justin Fields benched multiple times and traded. He's just 25. Trey Lance is just 24. Will Levis is 25, benched. Zach Wilson, 25, benched and traded. Mac Jones, 26, benched, traded. Kenny Pickett, 26, benched, traded. So it's basically you have a small window to show if you got it.
Yes.
And if you ain't got it, there's a likelihood they're going to bench you and at least start the process of moving on. Now, they may not do it. They may decide, hey, no, we want to reset things and start over in terms of your developmental track. But a lot of these guys, I always say that you know a quarterback if they have that it factor. You know it, that je ne sais quoi. You know it by watching that first few games with them. You really can tell. I think you can tell if they have enough of that it quality. But I think you also can tell that they don't. I don't think it takes that long. But that's a different discussion than the development discussion. I think they're looking at it like I look at it. Does he have the inequality? He ain't got it. Gone. And it's like, well, what about the traits you drafted? You drafted him high because you saw these traits. So I thought you had a plan to develop those traits and to also develop the weaknesses and turn them into or transform them into a franchise quarterback. And it's like they just drafted him like, we'll see if he got that inequality. And if he doesn't have it, and there's a I don't know if it's a research study basically about men and women and compatibility and how quickly someone deems you to be a possible partner. Like how quickly within first meeting somebody do you say, okay, you know what? I think they could be somebody who could be a partner with me, whether it be sexually or whether it be romantically. And they say for women, it's like in the first like 90 seconds to 3 minutes. Like they know. Doesn't take long. She's like, yeah, I know about 90 seconds, whether it be just mostly physical or whether it be that first impression they know. I feel like that's how they're looking at quarterbacks these days. I always say picking a quarterback is like picking a significant other, the woman you marry or man. Not the hottest person you ever dated, but the one that was most compatible with you. And that's how it should be. They should be looking at compatibility with these quarterbacks in terms of their system that they're running, the quarterback coach, their development. It should be a organizational approach to developing a quarterback. And I don't think you have that holistic organizational approach anymore to developing quarterbacks. It's like, if I don't see that it quality in the first few starts, he ain't. What's that? Oh, I tell the story about Daryl K. Royal. It was right. It was Mac Brown, Daryl K. Royal, George Strait, Willie Nelson. This is a real story, by the way, from Mac Brown. They were on the field. There was a coaching clinic, and coach comes up to him, and he walks up to Daryl K. Royal and says, "Coach, I want to be like you. I love you. What's the secret?" He says, "Well, you got to have it." And he said, "Hell, if you ain't got it," he says, "if you got it, you know it. If you don't have it, well, you don't know it. And if you have it, right, then that's all you need to know." And the coach kind of looked confused and discombobulated, and he didn't even say anything in response to Daryl K. Roy. He just kind of walked off. And Coach Royal looked at Willie Nelson, George Strait, and Mac Brown and said, "Hell, he ain't got it. Hell, he ain't got it." Meaning, I just took, right? I just evaluated him right? As a coach and as a man that quickly, and I just told you, hell, he ain't got it. That was 30 seconds. And I don't even know if the story is true, but I think the point of the story is, the it quality pretty quickly within somebody. It don't take long. Like, oh, they got it. Oh, yeah. Hear somebody speaking, you go, oh, they got it. Oh, he got it. Yeah. You ever hear a politician speak? It don't take long.
Yep.
You go like, oh, okay, that's something special. I like that. I like the way you talk. When trust me, when Trump started running for office, it didn't take long to know, oh, that's unorthodox. That's not what we usually see in politics. That is not that is different. Right? It's whatever it is. And I think that's the approach they're taking the quarterback, and they shouldn't. They should probably take a more, like I said, more holistic and a more patient approach to it. That is not the case. All right. Matter of fact, we can talk about Sark, because I think that makes Sark's blueprint unique, and I'll talk about why that is the case when we go behind the burn orange curtain. We also will dive into Jahdae Barron getting some love. He makes the Thorpe Award semi-finalist list for the second year in a row. He actually may be the front runner to win the award. We'll get into that a little bit, and we'll talk some Longhorn football coming up next right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn, Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about my friend and my dentist, Dr. Greg Eckert. He's the best in the town. Trust me on that. Hell, he might be the best in the state. I don't know all the dentists in the state, but I do know he's the best dentist in Austin, and I know that because he helped me out. Actually, I owe him and his staff, a huge debt of gratitude. I initially went there for a routine cleaning and a checkup, and without, I didn't know, but their checkup's pretty thorough. They found that my wisdom teeth actually were growing in sideways, and they were actually impacting my molars, causing all types of issues. I was actually on the cusp of a disastrous situation, folks. But no need to worry, because I was in great hands. Thank God I had went to Dr. Eckert, and they do those very thorough checkups, and they can do the same for you. And they got me, scheduled, and made sure I was informed and educated and comfortable with the process. Got the procedure done, and I was back at work within a couple of days. And now my dental hygiene have never been better, thanks to Dr. Eckert and his team. And I now make sure that I keep up with my checkups, keep up with all of my cleanings, with Dr. Eck. As a matter of fact, I need to reach out to them now thinking about it before the end of the year, just like you, before those benefits are up. You need to use them before you lose them, and you can do it with Dr. Eckert and his team. And hopefully for you, when you visit, it's not as drastic as having all of your wisdom teeth extracted. Hopefully for you, it's something pretty routine. But if it is something serious, you're in great hands with Dr. Eckert and his team. So it doesn't matter if it's general dentistry, teeth whitening, dentures, porcelain crowns, veneers, dental implants, full mouth reconstruction, even root canal therapy, whatever it takes to ensure you're getting the best quality dental care available. That's what Dr. Eckert and his team are all about. And I know this because they did the same for me, and they can do the same for you. And he also can do something even better for you. He can give you a brand new smile in just one day, permanently secured to your dental implants. No time spent without teeth. You'll get temporary fixings to complete your permanent smile, and you're going to smile again and eat freely without pain or discomfort. So we're talking about a lifelike permanent solution. So if you've been told that your teeth need to be replaced and you need dentures and you're freaking out about it and you're a little sad about it, disappointed about it, don't be. Just call Dr. Eckert and his team today. Learn about this revolutionary alternative to dentures, a brand new smile in just one day. I know it sounds too good to be true. It's not. That's just Dr. U. Complimentary consultation. So you got nothing to lose but so much to gain. A confident smile can truly change your life. And Dr. Eckert wants to change your life for the better. He did it for me. He can do it for you. 512-345-3166. That's 512-345-3166. And if you tell him that you're heard it here on the horn, you'll get a free Zoom whitening with whatever treatment or procedure you're having with Dr. Eckert and his team. That's dreckert.com, DRUECKERT.com. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Before we get into Jade Barron and his Thorpe Award candidacy, I want to get back to, this Anthony Richardson story and how I think it actually does relate to what Sark is doing at Texas. Sark has been able to carve out a very unique place in the modern era of college football, and being at Texas helps, right? But where quarterbacks are willing to sit and be patient and study, all right, and develop under Sark because he's got that kind of reputation as a quarterback guru. I think there are some others around the country. I think Lincoln Riley, of course, he's probably the only guy or one of the only coaches who's got a better reputation as a quarterback nurturer. But Sark's reputation is, and is one of the most respected of the quarterback minds in college football. We know that because the Mannings essentially gave their stamp of approval. Like, hey, no, Arch Manning, we trust the future of the brand, the future of the first family of football. We're going to entrust it to you, Sark. Develop it. Right? That does say a lot. And I just read you guys the quote from Matt Miller, who says that NFL scouts and agents are telling college quarterbacks to not leave school until they've started 2+ years. The NFL doesn't truly develop quarterbacks anymore aside of rare exceptions. They told Quinn that. That's what they told Quinn. Like, nah, man, you need to go back and start somewhere. You've been hurt and injured. So we need you to start we need to start 2 full seasons. We need a sample size of 2 full seasons. You ain't got that. It's basically what they told him too. So that is true. And if they know that, if Matt Miller knows that, and Quinn Ewers people know that, who's the first family of football? Which the Mannings, they probably know about the NFL's belief, ideology, dog-bone quarterback, and where it's shifting more than anybody, right, around. And people were questioning, why is Arch being patient? Why is he, willing to be patient under Sark? I think this may actually shed some light on it. That the manager told him, now, man, the NFL shifts a little bit. They want guys that have started multiple years in college. They want a big sample size and development. They're not developing you in the league. You're going to need to be developing you get there. So you need to stick with one of the best quarterback developers in the game, which is Sark. Stick with him. And then you are getting guys that stick with a little longer. Malik Murphy stuck with him a little longer. He wanted to study and learn, and now I believe he's still starting for Duke, if I'm not mistaken. And they had a big game coming up, actually. Forgot who it's up against. They got a big game. Okay. Anyway, but he studied under Sark, stayed around. Of course, Arch is staying around under Sark to study. Quinn Ewers came back because they probably told him, hey, man, we need you to have a bigger sample size. He came back to study. I think that discussion on a macro to micro level actually is related to what Sark's doing. And Sark has an opportunity because the NIL resources at Texas, because it is the University of Texas and the brand that it is, so you can attract the best quarterbacks from around the country. Sark's reputation, which can attract the best quarterbacks from around the country. And you're going to have the Quinn Ewers, to Arch, legacy, which is, going to transition into high-level quarterback play from one to the next. It should be something Texas developed as a pipeline at the quarterback position. And if that's the case, I think, you could, like I said, carve out a unique, kind of a unique space for Texas where your quarterbacks you don't have to deal with the transfer turnover as much as every other program. Of course, guys are going to transfer, but it doesn't impact you as much because you stockpile really high level quarterbacks and who are willing to be more patient in your program because of NIL, number one, because it's just like Malik Murphy, right after the great spring game, boom, he gets a little NIL bag. Arch Manning, even though he don't really want it, he can get an NIL bag. These guys only start. So the starters, they get Lambo deals, and I think he's got, I don't know what the Quinn's got. He's got something I think actually nicer than a Lambo, which I don't even know what that could be. But he's got a good deal. He's got a private jet deal. You'll get that as a starter, all right? You'll be one of the top 5 best compensated quarterbacks in college football based on NIL, but the backups will even get NIL. That's what Texas is doing. Like Malik Murphy got a bag. Arch Manning, like I said, if he wants it, he can get one. I hope somebody hooks up Trey Owens. So I think Texas actually they're and it's because of their efforts as well as Sark's reputation and the brand of the school and the resources. But I think Texas actually can be in a program that is less impacted by the transfer portal and the turnover that every other school has to deal with. Of course, they're going to be impacted, but it will help Texas more than it'll hurt Texas. It's going to hurt a lot of programs. It's going to help Texas. I mean, Quinn Ewers is via the transfer portal. And then you'll have fewer guys that want to leave your program and hit the transfer portal, or at least they'll give you time to stabilize the position like Malik Murphy did. Murphy allowed you to stabilize to be stayed long enough for you to stabilize it, get Arch in the system, boom, stabilize for the next few years. Hell, y'all want Arch to play now. Like y'all 30, y'all like, man, tell it Quinn. It's like Quinn's gonna be drafted first. Like, I don't think so. He's gonna go to the NFL and bust. He's gonna be a bust, just like Zach Wilson and the rest of them dudes. And you might be right about that. I have no idea.
And also, Arch is ready.
Yeah, he's ready.
He's not. No, I don't mean we should stick him in the hardest part of our schedule. Why wouldn't you stick him in there?
Want to travel to Arkansas to A&M? We think he can handle it.
He can handle it.
He got that.
I mean, he's ready. We haven't seen that backfire on anybody else ever. Great, but it's also I mean, the fact of not only staying with one system too, and having somebody where you can start to learn nuances into a system and start to see the system and grow with the system. So you're developing in a sense of I'm developing under the same coach. I'm developing, getting time to learn how to play the game, how to play as a quarterback, but also start to really learn how a system works. So when I go to that next level, I can immerse myself into a system in a different way because I understand more than it's just a playbook, more than I'm thinking of each play individually. I'm thinking, why are we calling plays in succession of each other? I'm thinking about which plays work best against which defenses because I've now seen the same playbook against a bunch of different defenses. All of those pieces come together, and it just helps you put it all together more and more each season. That can help you even if it's not the same system. You understand the concept of the system better than somebody who goes, no, someone's told me about it, but I've never seen it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We talk about that with the quarterbacks who, like a Baker Mayfield and those Jalen Hurts who've been in 8-9 systems and they've had to learn them in such a short time span.
Yeah.
They become, I guess I'm going to make up a word here, conceptualists. They look at the game in a conceptual way. They don't look at it from the specific terminology, specific play. Like, no. It's I've seen 8-9 different playbooks, and I've been in 8-9 different offenses. I know they're all pretty much built and structured the same.
Yeah.
So I just look at it conceptually and that kind of thing. Anyway, let's all right. I'm not going to just Dave Barron thing. We'll hit that next time. Let's get to the break. We got a topic for the Big Fat Poll today coming up, and your musically themed day of the week right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Baker's coming back on the horn.
Back in the Rodcast on a Wednesday morning, and that means it's a one artist Wednesday. And today's artist is the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's Anthony Kiedis, the lead singer's birthday this week, so we'll play some Red Hot Chili Peppers for you.
Nice.
All show today. Let's get to the Big Fat Poll today. Text line is open. 512-447-3776 is the text line number. And we'll get this posted up on X at the Horn ATX.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day on the Horn.
we talked about it a little earlier. I'm sure we'll talk about it a lot more. But the trade deadline is coming up on next Tuesday, and the Cowboys have been very quiet during it. The Texans we can talk about too. I'm curious if they will make a move. They do play on Thursday Night Football, so the move would likely be after that if they make a move because they do play tomorrow night. So probably not going to do anything before that, but they may. Who knows? But we will ask you, what should the Cowboys do at the trade deadline? They are 3-4. I have read some things that basically talk about how the cap is structured for the Cowboys going forward, that if they were to try and do it after signing CD and Dak and then trying to bring in Micah Parsons, that the all-in window would actually be 2025 to 2028, not 2024. So that there's a thought that maybe this is all a grand scheme. I don't think it is, but that they actually cap-wise, it makes more sense to go for it next season, not this season. But that being the case, and maybe trying to open up more cap space or trying to build and get players already on cap if you can find good deals to bring guys in this season. We just want to ask you, what should the Cowboys do at the trade deadline? These are the 4 options I'll give you on X. Do nothing. It's Jerry Jones special. To do nothing. To go all in. So if we go all in for the Cowboys, and if we can say going all in will allow them to make big trades, take a big swing, go try and get the best running back, bring in another wide receiver, bring in another defensive tackle, trying to bring in top players. If you want to go with trade players away, you want to say be a seller, you're 3-4. You want to get rid of some of these contracts that maybe you don't feel you need. Maybe you can add some more draft picks. Jerry likes to build through the draft, so say screw it. Let's go with what Jerry wants to do. We know this season's kind of a loss already. We don't feel like we're going to be there, so let's trade away some of these players, get some more draft picks, and then maybe we can go after it in the next couple of years. And maybe if we get some more picks in, we can fix and fill some of these holes. Or do you just want to do very rational, small trades, trade a 6th rounder, maybe a 7th rounder, and grab some guys, maybe grab another running back who's not going to be a game changer, but somebody that, just add another person in the room, maybe get another defensive tackle, not a game changer, but
it's a run stuffer.
Just somebody to put in there, 6th, 7th round picks. Just do small trades. Is that where you want to see them? Just, little pieces, maybe 1 or 2 really small trades, or do you want to see them go all in? Do you want to see them go the other direction, be sellers, or screw it, do nothing? Jerry Jones, you got it under control.
Yeah, I don't know about the last part. But no, I think the Cowboys they can situate themselves for another window. I do believe. I mean, now they got they'll just be a window built around Dak, CD, and Micah. That's your holy trinity. And as long as you get those guys locked up, I saw it was Jeff Kavanaugh does a good job. I think he threw out that if you restructure Dak and CD, because they have 3 void years at the end of the Dak Prescott and CD Lamb deals.
Yes.
That allow you that gives you some wiggle room, basically some room to be flexible. So if you restructure Dak and CD, that'll give you, about $30 to $40 million extra in cap space. You can restructure Terrence Steele as well and get some more salary cap relief. And there are different things you can do, but there's that maybe the Cowboys, they are looking at a window. Now, by the way, you got to move on from Mike McCarthy because of the 5-year rule that I talk about all the time.
Among other reasons, but
not just the 5-year rule, yes. But the 5-year rule is that no team has ever won its first Super Bowl by starting the same quarterback for the same coach for more than 5 seasons. So once you reach that 5-year mark, probably need to change one of those. And Dak ain't going nowhere because Dak just signed a big deal. So it's going to be Mike McCarthy. And you change Mike McCarthy, and then if you do some of those things in terms of restructuring, it does allow you, or it gives you a lot of salary cap space and flexibility for a window from 25 through like 27, basically. Like at 25 to 28 windows. Now, is that what the Cowboys are doing? I don't know. But they don't work like that because they are a homegrown team.
Exactly.
They are the most homegrown team in the league, meaning they're built through the draft more than any team in the league. Are they going to pivot from that and use that? What's that money going to be used for? Just signing your draft picks? Well, that's great, but that's not using every possible means to improve the team. You should be trading. You should be taking, obviously taking some chances in free agency with guys, and maybe that's what that's the money would be for. I have no idea.
No, but that's depending on what you look at, would you do nothing? Would you go all in? Like Jerry said earlier, go all in, make big trades, trade top level picks to go out and get the best players, try and compete in an NFC that is not great. You got a shot in the NFC right now.
A shot in the NFC right now.
So if you want to go all in, say we're not that far off, get some players back. If we get a really good running back, that changes that offense drastically. If you bring in a decent number 2 wide receiver, and then Brandon Cooks comes back, now you got all these weapons on the offensive end. And okay, we go on the defensive end, and do we bring in a top run stuffer, another defensive tackle? Do we bring in somebody else, a linebacker, somebody like that, and really shore up this defense and feel like we've got a top defense, top offense, and we went all in? Do you trade players away? Say we're building for the future. This is not going to be the season. So guys that are near the end, again, like a guy who's Deron Bland, I know you have to get him back and healthy, but if you take a Deron Bland at the end of his contract that you're going to have to pay or let go, do you try and trade him off to a contender and maybe get some picks back for him? Do you ship off somebody else that you feel, maybe a linebacker, or you ship off somebody, a wide receiver? You try and trade Brandon Cooks. You try and trade one of your. I mean, there's not a ton of guys you have to trade, but maybe somebody like that you ship off. Do you say, Zach Martin, we love you, but we're not going to keep re-signing you, so we'll bring in and rebuild our O-line, and somebody else needs a guard, we'll give them up Zach Martin? You're just trying to think of guys that you maybe have on this roster that other people may want that you'd be willing to give up, because there's guys they want, but you're not giving them up. So is that where you go, or do you just do something? Just do something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think the frustration is they're not doing anything right now. Jerry likes his guys. He does. He thinks we'll play the audio on the other side. He's got faith that his guys are gonna turn this thing around. That's basically what he's been saying, and his actions, they do back that up, because it's nothing but inaction. they ain't done a damn thing, but the holes are staring you in the face, like they're slapping you in the face, actually. So that's I'm looking around the league, and I'm looking at other teams who don't even have holes as glaring in their roster, who are making big moves, and the Cowboys have two of the biggest, most glaring issues on their roster, with the lack of a run stuffing D tackle or a run stuffing linebacker. That would be good too.
Which ironically, the holes on the roster are one that can't plug a hole and one that can't find a hole.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
We need to, well, you're going to end on a high note there. That'll be the end of the segment, ladies and gentlemen. We are now going to top that, and there's no need. We'll come right back. We'll hit the Cowboys, other NFL news, notes, and nuggets right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis, lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a hump day edition of the Rodcast, which means it's a One Artist Wednesday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, the Idillionaire Patrick Davis, he goes deep down into the rabbit hole, into the catalog of one specific artist, group, or a band. And today, that artist, group, or band, the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So paying some tribute to the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So appreciate my man Patrick hooking us up, because I actually like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Who doesn't? And do they still?
Apparently, a lot of people I know.
Really, people don't like the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yes, I get that there's some stuff that's a little bit insufferable, but I think you can find stuff you enjoy of theirs. I get there's stuff of theirs that I don't listen to too. They have a lot of stuff, so.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't listen to the whole catalog or anything.
Yeah,
we're just playing the bangers anyway. We're just playing the ones that you like. All right, there you go. So we appreciate Patrick hooking us up with a hit Red Hot Chili Peppers for a One Artist Wednesday. Even if you don't like them, hey, that's all right. You know what I mean? It's why so we do lots of different themes on the show.
Exactly.
All right, I'm sure there's some Red Hot Chili Peppers fans listening to us in the listenership today. Patrick also comes up with the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day. That is already posted at the Horn ATX on X. Patrick, what is the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day?
Big Fat Poll today. What should the Cowboys do at the trade deadline? We gave you 4 options on X. It's posted up there now. Do nothing, go all in, trade players away, and just small trades.
Just small trades. Yeah, that's kind of what I pick. And I'm picking just small trades. Like I said, I think get a dynamic running back that can turn a 6-yard run into a 10-yard run. Or go get a run stuffing presence inside. I prefer a run stuffing D tackle, or a run stuffing inside linebacker, or you can get both. How about both? How about all three? Running back, linebacker, and I don't think the linebacker thing is as crucial, because I think DeMarvin Overshown is playing really well. You got Eric Kendricks out there, but I think you need somebody who specializes in being a run stuffer. Like that's what they do.
Yeah. Exactly.
And they've proven that over time. And I don't know if and that I love DeMarvin Overshown. I'm not sure that's DeMarvin Overshown as a young linebacker in the league. He's great off the edge. You got a sack off the edge in that game. He was fantastic. As a matter, I mean, I probably can say that for what the stats, but DeMarvin Overshown's sack against San Fran was the fastest recorded sack in week 8. 4th fastest of the entire season. Came off that edge pretty nice. I mean, he's great. And I think early on he can be that. And I still think he's still a really good linebacker for him as a young guy. But like I said, I don't know if his specialty is being a run stuffer when a team's trying to run downhill on you. And they got Atlanta coming up, right? Atlanta's got some really exotic running concepts. They run some inserts. Essentially, an insert is basically when you put a lead blocker basically into a offensive line run blocking concept. They'll literally just insert him. So say he'll be in motion, and they'll just have him while he's in motion. They'll snap it while he's in motion, and he'll go insert through the B gap and become a lead blocker through the B gap. It's try to do some funky stuff with their insert blocks, as they call them, and they do a lot of stuff like that. And it's just really it's unorthodox and relatively. I mean, I'm not sure it's a brand new concept, but it's becoming more popular. It's becoming more and more popular, and a lot. Honestly, I guarantee you'll see Sark probably use it in the next two, I don't know, maybe next 2 or 3 games. I wouldn't doubt if I saw it. Sark pays a lot of attention to the evolution of the game. He talks about that, how he looks at some of the best offenses in the league and what they're doing. And I'm sure he's watching like his players. I'm sure he's watched Bijan in Atlanta when he gets a chance, and they run a lot of those concepts. I wouldn't doubt Sark's like, hey, that's pretty clever. I like that. And he's done that. Remember that cheat motion that became popular when Mike McDaniel went to Miami? And Sark started running that within the same season. And he had A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy doing cheat motion. Now guys do cheat motion. Now Juan Davis is doing cheat motion with Sark. So I wouldn't doubt if you see that concept. But anyway, for Cowboys going to have a problem with that. Cowboys need those two things. To me, it's just small trades. I can't say the Cowboys are going to go all in, because Jerry's definition of all in is very different than everybody else's definition of all in. We've established that. Remember, that was a whole conversation in the offseason. So I'm not going to get suckered into that. Just like every other, I would say, responsible organization around the league is doing right now. Look at your roster. What are the holes? And fill them. Like, it ain't rocket science. We'll go through all of them, but that's what Baltimore is doing. That's what they just did. That's what the Bills have done. That's what Minnesota just did. That's what Brett Veach in Kansas City's been doing all season long. I don't know about the Jets. I think that was just more Aaron Rodgers. But anyway, but still, like just in Jerry Jones right now, the fact that he's looking at those holes in his roster and he doesn't feel the need to take action is, and it's not only irresponsible, you can argue it's borderline general manager malpractice. It's like, because those holes, you're the worst rushing team in the league. How can you not make some type of drastic moves to improve that? You're the worst rushing team in all of football.
Well, no, and then Rico Dottle gets sick before the game, and so you have to play Zeke, and you call up Dalvin Cook, which Dalvin Cook always felt like this fake bullet in the chamber.
Yeah.
Like this thing where you're like, oh, don't worry. We got guys ready. We don't want him to get hurt early. Zeke, the problem with Zeke was he always, by the end of the season, was worn out and beat up. So we're going to kind of save him. He's going to come up and he's going to play like it's 2010. And then we're going to get Dalvin Cook, and then we're going to bring him up. He's this guy, in case of emergency, we got one of the best running backs, 8 years ago. And we got one of him. We got him in as well. And then they just weren't able to get going anything in that game. Man. And it just, once again, shows off that there isn't really that option for you at running back. Yeah, Zeke had 10 carries for 34 yards, and Dalvin Cook had 6 carries for 12 yards.
What are we doing? How can you, as I said, at this point, how can you look around the league at everybody else's running back situation and your running back situation and think that they're going to turn it around somehow, that somehow they're going to flip a switch? Like I said, I don't know what's going on. That, to me, and I know Jerry Jones at times is just more of a figurehead, so there's other guys behind the scenes making decisions. Whatever it is, Will McClay, Stephen Jones, somebody's got to do something. Like, they have to make a trade for something, acquire some player to really fill these voids right now, these huge voids they have on the roster. And the fact that they haven't, and if they don't do it, I honestly, guys, the Eagles look decent. The Eagles are figuring it out a little bit.
Yeah,
that's some bad news for you, Cowboys fans. The Eagles, they're starting to figure some things out. They played the Bengals, and against the Bengals, because I went and looked at it, I was like, oh man, I was surprised. The Eagles ran it 46 times. In the last 2 games, they've run it 46 times for 264 yards on first down across their last 2 games. They've kind of figured out some things in the last couple of games. In a game against the Bengals, last game, Jalen Hurts, he ran a season high 21 plays under center. They're like changing the offense now a little bit. It's a little different than it was when Kellen Moore first got there. So last 2 games, they're running a ton on first down and having a lot of success running on first down. Last game, he was under center more than he was in any game so far this year. He was targeting the middle of the field a lot more than he had been previously, and a lot more play action. The Eagles had 8 possessions against Cincinnati. They scored on 7 of them, 4 touchdowns and 3 field goals. Now Cincinnati has been struggling all season long. So I guess you take that with a grain of salt. But I don't know. I think they might be figuring some things out. And we know, and defensively in the last 3 games, since that bye, the Eagles are second in defensive success rate and EPA per drive. They've allowed just 2 touchdowns on 31 possessions by opponents. Defense figuring some things out. So is the offense. Washington goes without saying. They are the Cinderella story of that division right now. That ain't gonna be no easy win with the way Jaden Downs is playing. Hell, not only is he gonna win the Rookie of the Year, he'll be in the conversation for MVP. He ain't gonna win it, but he'll be in the conversation for it. I don't think last Rookie of the Year to win MVP was that Jim Brown. Jaden Downs is having that kind of season where at least he'll be in the top 3 to 4. He should be anyway. I don't know if he will. He should be. So Eagles are figuring some things out, and the Eagles always in the offseason, they're always adding to their roster. They're always trying to fill holes, but they do most of their work in the offseason with Howie Roseman. But man, Cowboys, the Giants are, like I said, the only team in that division that I can see the Cowboys being able to right now that are better. That are clearly better than. They're clearly better than the Giants. They're not clearly better than the Eagles. Not clearly better than Washington right now.
No.
That's a concern because I think we all had them beating Washington maybe once, twice this season in our predictions. That ain't guaranteed.
No.
Maybe splitting it with the Eagles. With the way you're looking right now, that's going to be a tough split with the Eagles. I think you could and will, but still, when guys get back healthy, but the Eagles, they were struggling, and now they're starting to figure some things out. So that division is getting a lot tougher than it was at the beginning of the season.
No, I mean you're in the bottom quarter of the NFC right now, and you're trending towards the bottom quarter of the NFL, and that's not where the Cowboys. It's not bottom half. You're very firmly in the bottom half of teams, but you are now falling into that bottom quarter part where you're not even going to be competitive in games against good teams because you're getting pushed out of games. You can say the Ravens and 49ers, they fought back in both those games.
They did.
But they were down 3 scores in both those games too.
You're right. Man, well, the 49er game, they at least, and think about it, that at halftime you had control of the game. Matter of fact, we'll hear from Micah Parsons. He had Trevon Diggs on his podcast recently. They actually got into some good conversations. And one piece of audio I want to play is Trevon Diggs talking about the halftime adjustments that the 49ers made that the Dallas Cowboys cannot counter. We'll get to that after we get to the Horn headlines, but that is also pretty interesting. So, and we can kind of tie a bow on our Cowboys discussion for the day. And we hear from Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones spoke to the folks over at 105 through the Fan and reiterated that he's got faith that his guys are going to be able to turn things around. And we'll talk about, how a lot of Cowboys fans are losing faith in Jerry Jones. We'll get into that. Also, I want to talk about the trades that happened last night or yesterday in the NFL. You got Lamar Jackson getting another wide receiving option because the Ravens traded for Deontay Johnson. We'll talk about that. Also, the Minnesota Vikings made a move trading for a left tackle, Cam Robinson, from the Jaguars, trading for him. We'll get into that and the benching of Anthony Richardson. Also, the big story in the NFL that we'll discuss. And Stefon Diggs, just talking about Trevon Diggs, but Stefon Diggs, bad news for him and bad news for Texans fans out there. Stefon Diggs suffered a torn ACL versus the Colts, so he's going to be out for the rest of the season. Nico Collins is still on for the temporary IR, when she'll be coming back off that hamstring injury. Right now, the Texans need solutions at wide receiver. Will they make a trade potentially for another piece at wide receiver? We'll talk about that too. But before we get into any of those discussions, let's get updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Mavericks picked up a 120-114 win over the Timberwolves last night. Kyrie Irving had another big game, scoring 35, with Luka adding 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. Tonight, the Spurs take on the Thunder, who are the last remaining team without a loss in the Western Conference. In the World Series, the Yankees avoid a sweep with a big 11-4 win over the Dodgers. Anthony Volpe got the Yankees a lead with a grand slam in the third, and a Gleyber Torres 3-run homer in the eighth sealed the game for New York. Tonight, the Yankees will try to send the series back to L.A. with the Game 1 starters Garrett Cole and Jack Flaherty back on the mound. And in the NFL, the Texans announced yesterday that wide receiver Stefon Diggs will miss the remainder of the season with a torn ACL. The news leaves the Texans with a big hole at receiver, with hopes that Nico Collins will be able to return off the IR in Week 10. And the Indianapolis Colts have decided to move on to Joe Flacco as a starter for Week 9. Anthony Richardson has a league bottom 44% completion percentage this season and the 4th worst QBR at 38.4. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. We'll get back to that Anthony Richardson story because it's compelling for a lot of different reasons. His decision to take himself out of the game, his regression as a quarterback, but the decision by the Colts to expedite his development. I don't know what the reason was for that. We'll talk about that. So I think mistakes have been made on both sides here. But Joe Flacco's going to start their next game versus Minnesota, too. I don't think they wanted him starting versus Minnesota with all the mind games that Brian Flores plays with young quarterbacks. That could have been – he's had some ugly performances anyway. That could have been real UGLY. No alibi ugly. Think about that. Ugh.
It's like
that could
you failed the third grade, and they're like, "You want to take the SAT?"
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know
like
about that.
Yeah. So I think there are a lot of factors at play in that decision. But we'll get back to that. Let's hear from. Can we pull that audio, Patrick, please, of Jerry Jones, the one from 105 through the Fan yesterday, where he spoke to them about the faith he has in the team still. He went on there, and a lot of obviously Cowboys fans are wondering if the Cowboys season is starting to go off the rails a little bit, especially with that loss to the 49ers and how bad it looked. But here is Jerry Jones when he was asked about what he believes is the state of this team and where they're headed.
I really do see that we've got the players, and we should have the players coming. Hopefully we'll get one or two of them back here against Atlanta. But I have a lot of faith in these players, and I have a lot of faith in this coaching staff. And so the big thing is that's what we've got, and that's reality. And so these players have a chance to get better. Their arrows are up, not down, and I'm talking in general here. Arrows are up. And this coaching staff is, I know firsthand. I spend a lot of time around them. The coaching staff's got their eye on the things that we need to improve on. We need to improve on communication across the board, and we can. It comes better as the season goes along. We'll get better with communication. And frankly, like all teams at this time, we'll have some players coming back that play critical roles for us. We ought to get better. And we're 7 games into this thing, 17-game season. Let's get this thing turned around and have a storybook ending to a rough start.
All right. Faith, yeah. I mean, I believe one of the definitions of faith is something for which there is no proof. Belief in, like, faith in something is like belief in something that you don't have proof of. And I don't know if there's a lot of proof that the Cowboys have the resources, really have the talent on the roster, really, to turn this thing around. When they get healthy, they'll be closer. But right now, I think some of the deficiencies are pretty glaring for the Cowboys, and some of this could be just coaching. I mean, just straight up, it could just be that the coaching disadvantage that the Cowboys are in right now, because that was glaring in that game, and that's part of the reason, even with all the injuries that the 49ers had, I couldn't pick the 49ers. I couldn't pick the Cowboys in that game versus the 49ers, even though the Cowboys had, I think, more advantages because of all the injuries. No Ayuk and no Christian McCaffrey, and 49ers on their fourth string running back. But, man, watching that second half, you could see that there was a schematic, strategic, tactical advantage with the 49ers over the Cowboys. And Trevon Diggs actually was on with Michael Parsons and talked about it a little bit. He remarked that when he was asked about, what was the difference in that first half and the second half, and what was the issue, the biggest issue for you as a player and for the team in that second half, he basically said it was coaching and the adjustments. Here's Trevon Diggs.
What happened in the first half that kind of shifted in the second half, that kind of third quarter to separate the game? What was the differences out there?
I think we went into the game like with the right mindset, as far as like the wanting to win and everybody doing their part, doing their job. I feel like we had a good first half. Like, our calls was good. We were stopping the run. We was flying to the ball. We was just doing everything that we can, making sure they wasn't punching it in. And then halftime came, and I feel like they made some adjustments. They made some adjustments that we didn't adjust to, and they started calling stuff that, was beating our coverages, and, we just didn't make the proper adjustments. And, I feel like the second half, they jumped out on us fast.
Yeah, that Shanahan offense, what just makes it so challenging? Obviously missing McCaffrey, Ayuk, Debo was able to play a little bit, and, obviously the running back situation, both teams facing injuries, but what makes the offense able to adjust and make it so unique?
I feel like it was their coach. They had great coaching. Just adjusting to the things that we were running. Like it felt like everything that they called was just a counter to what we were in. And it was just like we was SOL. So they got good players. Debo had a great game. Kittle, Hall of Fame wide receiver. Purdy's over here doing his thing as well. So they got pieces. They got the right pieces. So they was executing.
Yeah, I thought the game. I definitely thought, for people out there who say, we couldn't have made a difference. I definitely think if we had all our stars out there for a 6-point game in the Bay, that we can make a huge difference. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like we had our guys, and they had their guys. Their guys healthy too as well. I feel like it would have been a great game still.
All right, there you go. He's basically saying, it was a coaching advantage. They had counters to all of our initial game planning. They had adjustments, and there were no counters, I should say, no effective counters from the Cowboys. That's the chess match within the game that Mike McCarthy and his staff also have to improve on. They got to get better there too. And that's why the Cowboys in the third quarter this season, they've been outscored 61-19. That's a lot of that second half adjustments by the Cowboys. And I would say the Cowboys offensively came out and made it close because the Dak to CeeDee Lamb connection. And by the way, I'll say this about CeeDee Lamb. He was pretty honest about the route running. Remember, we talked about this earlier. What was that? I think that was last week when we talked about the Troy Aikman comments, where Troy Aikman called out the wide receivers for the Cowboys, saying, I think the routes are terrible. I think they run terrible routes. And he even said, I think CD's got to improve on his route running. Here's CD's quote from this week when he was asked about the interceptions for Dak. He wasn't asked about Troy Aikman's comments, but he said, we're about to get this thing rolling. He said, we got to maintain the momentum and we can't really go too up or too down. It's some things we can't control and some things we can. As for Dak, I know he can do better and have a better read. And for us, we can have better routes. Fight at the top of the routes. There are plenty of ways you can avoid an interception. You know what I'm saying? And on both parties, I know he can vouch for that. But as for us, I can only speak for us, and we have to be more physical at the top of the route. So good for CD. Saying, you gotta be more physical. That's good.
No, there was a play that I saw. I remember, and I don't want to take a shot at the guy because it happens a lot, but it's one of those, smaller pieces of big picture of Tolbert going on a route, and the ball's overthrown a little bit, but the DB goes for the ball and puts hands on it, and Tolbert's 7 yards away from it to pulled up on the route. And you're like, you got to at least make sure it's not an interception.
Yep.
At least follow through on the route and don't let the DB get a free shot at a pick because you're like, oh, I can't make a catch. So I'll just, if I pull up, it doesn't make it look like I'm not making an effort. But then you let it pick up. You just can't have that attitude. And I think that's part of running those routes where they kind of pull up on a route when they don't feel they're going to be able to get to there, but then the ball gets picked off.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yeah, you got it. You have to come to the defender. If the ball's overthrown and it's the defender initially may have a better angle on it and may have a jump on it, then he's a receiver.
Yes.
Then he has a right to the football. You need to become the defender in that moment. So I'm glad CD said that. So I say he wasn't talking about Troy, but he just acknowledged, no, we gotta fight at the top of the route a little bit more. We got to fight for Dak on some of those contested catches, some of those really, really, throws that are in tiny windows, go in small window throws. You got to fight for Dak on those. So that's a good thing. And honestly, the Cowboys, I don't know how the Brandon Cooks thing when he comes back. I mean, that's going to be big too. The Cowboys' third wide receiver isn't really Jalen Tolbert. He's not working out for him. In terms of him contributing more as a second wide receiver with Brandon Cooks out.
Yeah, I think he could be a third. He had one game that he did pretty good, but he's just not. He's not getting the separation he needs to get. He's not getting, and he's not drawing coverage. It's the biggest problem they have is you can double CeeDee Lamb and play man, no problem on everybody else. Ferguson isn't drawing enough coverage. No one is drawing. I mean, because we saw what a good tight end can do. George Kittle just kept getting the ball because if you weren't going to help out on George Kittle, they're just going to keep throwing the ball to him.
Just wreak havoc out there.
And Ferguson's not playing well enough to do that, to make a defense adjust to him. and Tolbert's not playing well enough to get a defense to adjust to him, which means you're double teaming CeeDee Lamb. And until you get the Three Stooges moment of double teaming him and the two guys run into each other so CeeDee Lamb can break free, if that's the game plan, that might be a flawed one. It finally worked.
That was amazing. I couldn't believe that CeeDee Lamb was just running wide open at
two touchdowns in a row.
Just wide open. I'm sure Dak was surprised too. Like, why is he wide open? I don't understand that.
I feel like on this second one, Dak's got to be like, "Is this a trick? Are they tricking me into something there?
Yeah,
twice?
Right. This is disguise or something, right? What's going on here? Nope, that's your number one receiver running wide open. Yeah, no, it's a good point. I just don't think. Yeah, I mean, I don't know when Brandon Cooks comes back, like, how much more effective he's going to be. I know they do need someone that can just beat man to man if they're going to dare the Cowboys, to throw the football to anybody else other than CD, which I think you're going to get. So we'll see. But the Cowboys, they need a running game also. I think the running game is probably more important than them figuring out who the weapons are in the passing, because they can throw the football. I mean, they're like top 5 in passing yards.
Yeah.
But they are the worst running offense.
If they weren't top 5 in passing yards, they would not score any points.
Yes, it's the only way they can win the football. I agree with it, but that's also putting, you're putting a little too much burden on Dak and CD in that.
Yeah,
because to me, that's why Dak has. Some people think Dak's having an off season, or I think Dak's having a pretty good season considering he's in a one-dimensional offense. That's everybody knows that's the only way they can move the football. Nobody fears your running game. And honestly, they don't game plan for your running game. They're just game planning for your passing game. And they're just game planning for Dak and CD, as Patrick mentioned too. They're not game planning for Jake Ferguson. They're not game planning for Jalen Tolbert. So I think for the Cowboys, they need to make some moves. They really do. If they don't make a move or by the trade deadline, I worry the Cowboys may be, just a 10-win team. And that's about it. I don't see them winning 12 games like they have the last few years if they're not going to make a move. All right. So enough Cowboys talk there. Even though we always get, matter of fact, there's one other Cowboys nugget that I want to get to, but we'll save that for later because I want to get to some of the other trades that happened yesterday, namely the Baltimore Ravens trade, most significantly, who traded for Deontay Johnson from the Carolina Panthers. We'll discuss that. Also, the Minnesota Vikings made a move. We'll talk about that too. And I'll tell you where the Ravens' blind spot is. They got a blind spot, and they keep trying to address it. And we'll talk about that. All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. I want to talk about some of the trades that happened, or a couple of the trades that happened yesterday in the NFL. Number one, the Baltimore Ravens trading for Deontay Johnson. They traded a fifth round pick in 2025 for Deontay Johnson and a sixth round pick. So essentially, nothing. Because they get a sixth round in return. So in terms of draft capital, they really gave up nothing. Makes you think like, why didn't more teams try to do that? Because Deontay Johnson actually is a pretty productive wide receiver. He's in a bad system, in a system with obviously with the Panthers. They didn't know who their starting quarterback was going to be. Had to bench Bryce Young, and they've been dealing with some issues in terms of the offensive identity of that team. And so Deontay Johnson's numbers suffered as a result. But now at Baltimore's issue is they haven't really been able to trust their wide receivers to be consistent enough to be able to win one-on-ones on the outside. And I think that's why they want to bring in Deontay Johnson. He's another option for a guy that can solve their problem of their wide receivers being inconsistent versus man coverage. And that's, I think, why they made the move. I mean, think about it. You go look at it. Zay Flowers, they got Rashad Bateman also thrown in there. But when you're facing Derrick Henry, who's the leading rusher in the NFL and can play bully ball and run downhill on you, and you got to deal with the best dual threat quarterback in the league and maybe ever in Lamar Jackson, you're going to be playing a lot of man-to-man on the outside potentially because you're going to have to stuff the box. You can't just live in zone against them. If you live in zone, they'll eat you alive. They'll just run downhill on you. You got to put a spy on Lamar Jackson a lot of the times, and you got to stuff the box for Derrick Henry and for both of those running threats. So you end up in man-to-man a lot, and when you end up in man-to-man against them, they need their receivers to go out there and win, and Zay Flowers can win and has won, but he's not doing it consistently. You need guys that you can count on. They're going to do it, and I think they want more weapons that can do it across the board. Because if it's only Zay Flowers relying on, well, it makes you more predictable, easy to take away. They do have one of the best tight end duos in the NFL with Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. So that's a problem. And because of that, they want to go more 12 at times too, right? With both of those tight ends on the field because they like their tight ends. And when they want to play bully ball and beat you with some mass and run the football downhill on you, they'll go with 12 personnel with both of those guys. But they've been spreading it out more, right? Because this is the vision for Todd Monken. Todd Monken is running more of an air raid offense, if you will. So the vision is to spread teams out and then force them to have to pick and choose between defending the space and defending the weapons on the outside or defending the very potent and prolific run game. And they've been great so far this year, but they have a blind spot at wide receiver. The Ravens always have. It's weird. They don't draft wide receivers really well. They just don't. In some organizations, it's a GM that has a blind spot, or it's just an organizational blind spot. Like for the Cowboys, their organizational blind spot really has been quarterback. They've drafted like the fewest amount of quarterbacks in the NFL since 2000. They basically Forrest Gump their way into Tony Romo's an undrafted free agent as a franchise quarterback, which never happens. It's like maybe undrafted free agent return to Kurt Warner was in that conversation. Maybe Warren Moon. Like it doesn't happen very often when an undrafted free agent becomes a franchise quarterback in the NFL. And then there's Dak Prescott, who initially was their third string quarterback behind Romo and behind Kellen Moore. And then both those guys get hurt. Dak gets his chance, and boom. Remember, they wanted Connor Cook and Paxton Lynch. They ended up with Dak Prescott, and the rest is history. So that's kind of their organizational blind spot. They're almost irresponsible when it comes to quarterback acquisition. They have been over the last 2 decades. They're the luckiest team in the NFL when it comes to quarterback, actually. But I digress. Getting back to it, the blind spot for the Ravens is wide receiver. They have used 4 first-round picks on 3 wide receivers and 1 tight end since 2018. And these are not all guys that they're necessarily drafting, but some of them are, and they don't really work out. When Ozzie Newsome was there, because now it's they have a new GM now, and he's just as good. But when Ozzie Newsome was there, he didn't draft 1 Pro Bowl wide receiver, and he was there from basically 2002 to 2018, basically as their personnel man and GM. And An executive VP, player personnel, never drafted a Pro Bowl wide receiver. It's one of his blind spots. He just admitted like that. Like, it's just something he couldn't do. He just wasn't really good at it. And I think, you know what? Bill Belichick was like this, actually. Bill Belichick, with DBs, he would have to trade for DBs and sign DBs in free agency because he had kind of a blind spot drafting them. He drafted 32 DBs since 2000. This is obviously going back to his last year with the Patriots, and 17 of them were on another team within 3 years. And Belichick's a defensive guy, and he only had 5 starters out of those 32 DBs he drafted for that were starters for at least 2 years, and he had 1 Pro Bowler out of that group. It's interesting that some guys just have, actually I take it back, there are 2 Pro Bowlers out of that group, but some of those guys end up just being, just it's a blind spot for them. And I think for the Ravens, their blind spot has been pretty much their wide receiver position. They don't draft, what guys they draft don't necessarily always work out for them. So they've been acquiring them in different ways, and Deontay Johnson obviously going to trade for him. I think it's a good move, but it just shows you that, they still got some, even though they're one of the most potent offenses in the league, and they have an identity, which is they can run the football. They got the leading rusher in the NFL in Derrick Henry. They got the best dual threat quarterback in history, arguably, Lamar Jackson. So they have an identity, but they know they need to be able to pivot. You got to have, in the playoffs, at one point, if you play good teams, they're going to force you potentially to abandon your identity. Like, that's just a reality. That's good football. And can you win the other way? When they force you to abandon the identity, can you win? Like, Longhorn fans are kind of worried about that with Texas and Quinn, right? The identity right now seems to be, short, quick passing game. It's like, well, okay, but what if a team shuts that down? What's your pivot? Can you pivot? Can you pivot and win another way? And you can tell Baltimore's preparing for that. They could kind of coast to the rest of the season just fine right now. They're not thinking about the rest of the season. They think about playing the Kansas City Chiefs. And what do y'all know about the Kansas City? Has anybody been paying attention to the Kansas City Chiefs defense? What did I tell you guys yesterday? Damn, they're the best rush defense in the league. they're right now trending toward being the best rush defense in the league. That's how good Kansas City's they got they're a top 5 scoring defense. They're a top 5 total defense. Their offense just is a game managing offense. But this is the Chiefs against the running back runs this season. So just traditional handoffs this season. They're first in success rate against running back runs. They're first in yards per carry allowed, only 3. They're third in first down touchdown percentage allowed, only 16%. They're 10 plus yard runs allowed. They're second in 10 plus yard runs allowed, only 5% of the runs for running back runs are 10 plus yard runs. Yards per carry before contact, second in the NFL, only 0.80 yards per, not even a yard, not even a full damn yard before contact. All right, and yards per carry after contact, 2.17. They're first in the NFL, and they have faced Derrick Henry. Right, they have faced Bijan Robinson. They have faced Jordan Mason. They have faced Alvin Kamara. Don't say like, man, they faced some scrub. Nope, they've been facing some of the best running offenses in the league. And the Ravens know, man, they're gonna be better on run defense by the time we play them again in the playoffs. They're gonna be real good. And what do their corners do? What do the Chiefs corners do and DBs do as well as anybody? Come on, we've been talking about this. Bump and run. Press on the outside, bump and run, press on the outside, bump and run. So they can neutralize your running game with a stout elite rush defense, and they just say play press on the outside. That is a bad matchup for the Ravens, formula wise.
Yeah.
A team that's elite at stopping the run, and by the way, they can play bump and run on your corners on the outside. That could be a problem. So you need guys that can win on the outside. When they go man to man, because they trust their guys going man to man, and that's why you need a guy like Deontay Johnson. And this is how GMs are supposed to look at their roster, and you're supposed to be able to foreshadow and visualize this as a GM going, all right, we can win the division this way, but can we win it all this way? This is what the Chiefs are doing. The Chiefs are looking at their roster and going, yeah, of course we're undefeated, but are we going to three-peat this way? Are we going to three-peat with our wide receiving core? Nope, let's go get DeAndre Hopkins. Are we going to three-peat with our pass rush? Nope. Let's go get Uche. Are we going to three-peat when Isaiah Pacheco just got hurt? I'm not sure. Well, let's go get Kareem Hunt.
Let's go look around the market, see what the price is. We'll call the Rams about Cooper Kupp. We'll call everybody about their picks, and then we'll make the best decision. But we're going to call everybody and go out there and try and figure out who's available, and then we'll make the most cost-effective opinion and option. We'll take that one, but we'll at least go out and check what the options are and make some phone calls, because if we find out that we can get a Hopkins or a Deontay Johnson for a 5th-round pick, well, now we can make that trade. If we just assume that everyone's a 2nd, 3rd-round pick and don't make the call, well, that guy's pretty good, so he's probably a 3rd. We got him listed as we would trade him for a 3rd, so we won't make that phone call because we're not giving up a 3rd. We'll call him. You gave up Amari Cooper for a 5th.
Exactly. You're another example of a team that's willing to go, no, we'll basically give him to you. Please take him off our hands.
Yeah.
And your example, the best example what you're talking about is Derrick Henry. Now, he wasn't a trade, but they didn't call him.
They didn't call him.
Never even called him. Guy lives in Dallas. You didn't call him. You might have been like, nah, actually, I want to stay in Dallas. I got some issues going on. I want to be close up. Nope, they didn't call the man. Just call him. All they can say is no. Like that dude, back when I was single, it's like, man, all she can say is no. Dude, all she's going to say is no. Like, she's not a monster. Like, all she's going to say is no, or she's going to reject you. It's okay. All right. But she might say yes. She might laugh at the joke. She might smile and say, oh, you know what? That's funny. Oh, you're cute. What? And what if that happens? What if that happens? Oh, man. Could you imagine where you'd be? You'd be on cloud 9. And that's, I don't understand why Jerry just doesn't make the call, man.
No, you remember when you were a kid and you were like, oh, my parents will never let me do this. And then you just ask and they're like, oh, yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
What?
What? I can sleep over. You said I can go over there right now and sleep over? Like, yeah, I don't care. Go over there. Like, man, you said you didn't like his parents. All right. You didn't like him at all. You think he's a terrible kid. Whatever it may be. Yeah, and I'm with you. I don't understand why Jerry, when I heard Derrick Henry say that, like, oh, no, they never called me. I was like, they never called you?
No.
They never even reached out to you? That's malpractice.
No. Like, the Rams should have said, Cowboys called about Cooper Kupp. The Rams should have said, the Titans should have said that they called about how, and you're like, just call. Just be like, hey, man, I give a 5th and get a guy. And I know you need a running back, not that, but everyone should be talking about what you're giving up for a running back. Everyone should be like, oh, no, Cowboys are calling everybody.
Yep. They're always on the phone. They're hitting everybody up all the time. And you should have a list of players that you think
fit in the system
you're interested in, or basically based on the salary they're making and the situation they're in with the team. Like, now this team, they might want to move on from this guy. I'm telling you, this guy,
they may want to move on. He fits in really well. He does things that Rico Dowdle doesn't do, and we can put him in, and they'll complement each other well. We can put him in there. Yeah, you should have that. But
yeah, it's not happening with the Cowboys right now, but it is happening with a lot of contenders, and the Ravens are the latest. Also, the Minnesota Vikings made a trade. This team is also, there are a lot of reports that the Minnesota Vikings been trying to make moves. But they brought on Cam Akers. I remember that because they needed a running back, but they traded for Cam Robinson from the Jacksonville Jaguars, a conditional 5th-round pick for Robinson, and a 6th-round pick in 2026 is what they're going to swap, a conditional 6th-round pick. Christian Darrisaw, their starting left tackle, he suffered a season-ending knee injury last week in their last game, and because I think versus the Chargers, and so they moved quickly. Didn't take them long at all, and because they see they got a shot. They got a shot. They're right now on a little bit of a losing streak, but that's all right. They're still one of the leaders in the NFC. And that's the thing. There's only one juggernaut in the NFC. I don't even know if they're Detroit. That's it.
Yeah.
Everybody else looks very beatable in the NFC, guys. Everybody. Like, what other team looks unbeatable? The Detroit Lions look pretty damn impressive right now.
They do, but you never know what's going to happen.
50-something points. Yeah. They look legit. But other than Detroit, give me the team that looks unbeatable. It ain't San Fran. I mean, there's nobody in the NFC East. The NFC North is impressive, but the Green Bay is not unbeatable, and neither is, Minnesota, especially with Sam Darnold there.
No.
I'm saying that, like, right now, to me, that's why the Dallas gets so frustrated. There's only one team everybody's looking at, and that's Detroit. And if you can compete, if you can build your roster to at least compete with the rest of the NFC, because I think Detroit's going to end up in the NFC title game. At least you can get to the NFC title game. And then, hell, man, let the chips fall where they may. To me, that's the spot that's open. There's one other spot open. And usually it's San Fran, but I don't know if San Fran's guaranteed this year. They get everybody healthy back, they may. All right, we come back. What the facts, what the stats on the other side, right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some what the facts, what the stats here on the show. I got a couple of these for you guys. How about this one? The Texans. Good news for the Texans. We talked about the bad news. That's looks like Stephon Diggs is going to be on the season-ending IR with a torn ACL. So we'll talk more about that. How the Texans. We expect them. I mean, no GM has been more active since they became a GM than Nick Caserio. He's always making moves, and it looks like the Texans may be in need of some reinforcements at the wide receiver position. But how about this one? I said it the other day, and now I have proof. The Texans have the best edge duo in the NFL. Period. I've been watched every team, but I've watched a lot of NFL so far this season. I'm sure you guys have too. I haven't seen a better edge duo than Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. And here's proof. Comes from Next Gen Stats. Texans edge defenders Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson both rank them on the top 4 pass rushers in quarterback pressures through the first 8 weeks of the season. The only teammate duo within the top 15. Nobody else has a duo in the top 15. They're in the top 4. It just felt like watching it. That was the eye test. I'm like, I don't know if anybody else gets the the same amount of pressure and with the frequency that the Texans edge rushers do, and it just proved it. Is Danielle Hunter's first in quarterback pressure with 51. Nick Bosa's got 44. He's second. Myles Garrett's got 41. He's third, and then Will Anderson is fourth with 39, according to Next Gen Stats. It's pretty good. So that's back up my claim, though. I do think they have the best edge duo in college football. All right, another stat for you here. If you're looking at, how about this one? Who has the best big play differential among the AP top 10 in college football? Basically, differential between 20 plus yard plays generated, 20 plus yard plays allowed. That would be the Texas Longhorns, plus 44 in big play differential. Second would be Miami, but Miami's at plus 32. We complain about the lack of explosivity of the offense, and yes, we would like it to be more explosive with some of the down the field throws. But your defense is so good at limiting explosive plays that big play differential should matter more for Longhorn fans. It doesn't. It should. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Georgia is plus 20. They're third among the AP top 10 in big play differential. Those are the only teams that are plus 20 or better. How about this one? I know we're getting close to it. Brock Bowers is on pace to become the youngest player in NFL history to lead the NFL in receptions. The current list, that basically their age in the final game of the regular season. Larry Fitzgerald, 2005, he was 22 years, I believe. 22 years old, almost 23. Kellen Winslow in 1980 was 23 years old when he did it. And Shipwreck Kelly. Damn, is that a real name? That's crazy. That's awesome. It is in 1933, Shipwreck Kelly. Why don't we hear more about Shipwreck, man? I want to know what of all, what's the genesis of the name? It comes from NFL research. NFL research says Shipwreck Kelly, 23 years old and 155 days in 1933. He led the NFL in receiving and was at that time the youngest player to ever do it. And now Brock Bowers is on place with Shipwreck Kelly. Dude, there should be more talk about
I'm going to make this even worse when I tell you what. So his name was John Sims Shipwreck Kelly, is the nickname.
Okay, of course.
And he got his nickname from Alvin Shipwreck Kelly.
Oh, he wasn't. Who's in the shipwreck? Who's actually in the shipwreck? Anybody in the shipwreck
what
here?
Alvin Shipwreck Kelly was famous for, Rod, was pole sitting in the 1920s.
Say that again. Pole sitting.
Pole sitting.
Pole sitting. Pole sitting.
Yeah, he sat on poles for a long time.
Is this a real thing, or you
I'm telling you? No, that's what he did. He sat on poles for a long time.
So how do you get the nickname Shipwreck? Then do we know that?
I don't know. I guess
a cool nickname.
I guess his picture is him in a captain's hat.
Oh, okay, so
sitting
maybe
on a pole. Clearly, Alvin Shipwreck Kelly is sitting on a pole, but.
Oh, I'm sorry I asked. I shouldn't even. I didn't know why I inquired. I knew Patrick would try to do the research. Thank you very much, Pat. I appreciate that. Yeah. See, I'd never heard of that name before, and now I know way too much about it.
Yeah. Now you know that pole sitting was popular in the 1920s.
Was it a competition? Was pole sitting?
No, I think it's like David Blaine, but just really boring David Blaine stuff where he's just like, guess what? Guess I can sit on this pole longer than most people.
Sit on this pole. There's so many jokes there.
There's a million. I don't have to say them. You know them.
Yeah, but they just
don't have to say them. All I gotta say is pole sitting.
Pole sitting. It sounds like something that the Aggies probably still do down there in Aggie Land. I feel like they probably still do some pole sitting down there in Aggie Land. All right, there you go. So that's facts of the day. Oh, how about this one? I got another one. Actually, this is a good one. Roshan Johnson, NFL's only player to score a touchdown on 100% of his carries inside the 5-yard line this season. With a minimum of like at least 4 carries. That's pretty good so he's basically a sure thing. And this is crazy. He's a sure thing, but didn't the Bears, didn't they have a run play they handed off to an offensive lineman in that game? When they had Rojo in the backfield, I swear that was the case. And I might have missed it. Oh, I think, okay, you know what? I'm going to find that because I didn't watch that game, but I remember hearing about how they decided to call a run play and they handed it off to it. Oh, they did. Here it is. A bungled goal line chance in which Shane Waldron, the OC of the Bears, called a handoff to backup center Doug Kramer, and it was fumbled, nearly cost the Chicago Bears dearly. However, the D got another stop. It said Williams led a touchdown drive capped off by a Roshan Johnson touchdown plunge, who is 100%, all right, running the football like short yardage on the goal line in terms of being able to convert those. And yet they decided, you know what, we got this guy who's 100% guaranteed, all right, on the goal line to get it in. We're going to hand it off to a backup offensive lineman. That's what we're going to do.
That's what
we're
going to
outsmart you. Boom. Outsmarted you. Even though sometimes
I got another fact for you. In 1930, Alvin Shipwreck Kelly set a world record by sitting on a flagpole on top of the steel pier in Atlantic City, 220 feet high, for 49 days and 1 hour.
Hold up. Excuse me? Hold up. What? That's not real. That can't be real.
Look, it's Wikipedia, so it could all be fake.
Hold up. What? How many days?
49 days and 1 hour.
Is pole sitting what I think it is visually?
He just climbs up a pole and sits on it.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, you just sit. So he's just sitting on the pole. How is he relieving himself?
Like just sitting on top.
Well, that's even more uncomfortable.
Yes,
sitting
it
on
does.
Top of the pole.
It says while pole sitting, Kelly was said to have subsisted mainly on coffee and cigarettes.
Smoking cigs. How did he relieve himself?
I don't know. The other part I read was that he used to put his thumbs into holes on the side when he would nap, and so if he would start to sway, then he would hurt his thumb and wake him up.
Whoa. When did pole sitting fashion? When did it fall out of
I think
favor?
in the 40s, 30s, 40s.
Yeah. You're just making there's a random guesstimation there.
I'm just looking up what I've just read on a Wikipedia page that may be completely fake.
And yeah, now I'm gonna, thanks to Patrick, my search history today is gonna be all pole sitting. And I'm going to be taken to some very strange pages. I'm thinking about pole. I'm going to sift through some other stuff first for pole city to actually find what I'm looking for. I'm like, no, I'm not talking about that. I want to actually people sitting on poles, that kind of competition.
Thanks, Shipwreck Kelly.
Shipwreck Kelly, yes. Oh man, there you go. That's a nice rabbit hole to go down of. All right, let's get to some sports. Get back to it. I guess that was sports related. That's a competition. Pole sitting. That's a competition. And I guess Shipwreck, he was a pole sitter and a football player.
No. He was named after the pole. The pole sitter named the football player.
Oh, so the son.
There's two Shipwreck Kellys, but there's
yes, different. So the son never sat on the pole. He never decided.
I don't know. I don't even know if he's son. They're just both Kellys.
Oh, they're not even related.
I have no idea.
Oh, okay, just namesake, but not even related. Yes. Okay, I thought it may have been some relation there. Okay, but in that case, I totally get it. No, actually, I don't get it. But we'll come back to here and we'll talk about the long course we got behind the Birdwitch Garden. We'll get to the Anthony Richardson benching, which I think brings up a lot of questions about quarterback development in the NFL. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Beaver's coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a One Artist Wednesday edition of the Rodcast, and that means my co-host, the Idealionaire, Patrick Davis. He comes with all of our musically themed days of the week, but on a One Artist Wednesday, he goes deep into the catalog of one specific artist, group, or band, and they become the featured artist on One Artist Wednesday. And today, it is the Red Hot Chili Peppers who are the featured artists for One Artist Wednesday. So we're appreciate Patrick and all of his hard work there. We also appreciate his efforts when it comes to the topic for the big fat poll of the day. Patrick, give the folks out there the topic for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll of the day. What should the Cowboys do at the trade deadline? We gave you do nothing, go all in, trade players away, and just small trades are the ones that we gave you. Trade players away. A lot of people on the bandwagon of just trade everyone away. We don't care anymore. I think people are a little upset. A lot of comments that basically all are on sell the team, fire the GM, get rid of Jerry. We hate Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is the worst. That's the general concept is we don't care. Jerry's going to do the wrong thing. So, but yes, do nothing's at 18%, 15% for go all in, 60% for trade players away, and 8% for just small trades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll say just small trades. That's where I am. I don't think you need to do too much drafts, but I realize that is the right now that's the least popular option on the survey. But that's where I am. Trade players away. I mean, man, if you trade players away, you're only trading players of value, and that means you're trading away right now your kind of core, your nucleus. I don't know if I'm the Cowboys, I wouldn't do that because that means you got to reset things. It means you would be admitting that you're at the end of your window, and maybe that's what these Cowboys fans are thinking. Hey, the window is over. It's done. This year is we're seeing. Remember, this is the year of the 5-year window. This is the 5th year of the 5-year window for Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott. And I will admit, it ain't looking like they are close. And if you're not close in that 5-year window, usually my rule is change something drastic. Head coach or quarterback. And quarterbacks, obviously, Dak just signed for a big contract. He ain't going anywhere. So I think the easiest move is, honestly, change Mike McCarthy. And I think he's on his way out. But then all you need, not all you need. You need a running back, and you need I think a presence at a run-stuffing presence at D tackle. And I think if you do that, you could compete to win the division. I know that's not enough for Cowboys fans, but win division, and then you'll be in the conversation to be the other team playing against most likely the Detroit Lions on the NFC side when it comes to the NFC title game. That could be you, but right now you're not even close because San Fran just whipped you without without one of their top wide receivers, without their main piece, the most important offensive instrument they have, which is Christian McCaffrey, and they just put it on you in one half basically of football. So you're not close to them, and we'll see where you are with the other teams in the NFC in your division, because right now Washington looks pretty damn good, and as I pointed out, Philadelphia's figuring some things out. So Cowboys got a tough road ahead of them, man. They really do. If Jerry Jones is going to continue to stand pat and be inactive at the trade deadline, and it looks like he's not going to do anything. Looks like this is the team that you guys have, and matter of fact, we heard that Jerry Jones sound earlier of him on 105 through the Fan saying he likes his guys. He believes they're going to turn it around. He's got faith. These guys are going to turn it around. I do not. I think you need to add some more guys.
I think if you stand still, then you're not going to be bad enough to get a top pick. You're also not going to be good enough to be anywhere close to the playoffs, really. You'll just be 2 or 3 games out of the playoffs. So you're just sitting right in that fun area of everyone's upset, and it doesn't really help you to be bad. And you're not trading a guy. Like, again, if you're not going to either you're going to pay Deron Bland, which you're not paying Deron Bland. Can we agree that he's not paying Mike and Deron Bland?
No, he's not going to pay Deron Bland.
So why are you not at least getting a pick back for him?
Well, now you got to get his value back up after the injury. Yeah.
I mean, you don't have time to do it yet this week, and then you can trade him after this weekend.
That's true. Yeah.
There was one before the season. I thought you could have gotten a really high pick for him. I still
Oh my
think you
God,
can
he's
get
coming
a
off.
decent pick for him.
Yeah.
He was in the defensive
In a
player of the year
conversation
voting
with
last
defensive
year.
player of the year. Yeah, that's so true.
And he has value. He's making almost nothing right now. And he's going to make a contract next year. He's going to get paid. He knows he's got to get paid next year. So if you're going to get any value, that's the guy that I look at as either you bring people in to help or you trade him away. If you just let him play out the end of his contract here and then don't re-sign him, that's negligent if you're the Cowboys.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on with the Dallas Cowboys right now.
Yeah.
I think, being this inactive this offseason and now before the trade deadline, now that you have been able to witness what your issues are and then be exposed by other teams because you're last in rushing in the NFL and you're at least second to last in rush defense. I'm gonna go back and try to look at the history of teams who are last in rushing and second to last in rush defense and see if any of them have ever made the playoffs. There's no way that's right. I mean, there's no way you can make the playoffs that way. I'm saying I don't know that for a fact, but I'm just going off, just my common knowledge. But I will research it and find out how often team that is last in rushing, second to last in rush. Sorry, yeah, second to last in rush defense, but last in rushing ends up making the playoffs, or at least in down at the bottom of those stats. I gotta say, I guarantee it's probably. Man, it may be one in the last 20, 30 years or something, some random occurrence.
It would have to be one of those times that it's like you win the division with a losing record.
Something.
And you're just in the playoffs because you won the division.
Yep. Or some strike year or something. It's going to be something weird. I get it, but it doesn't happen, guys. And for the Cowboys to look at their team and see that and still have which I think is almost ignorance, but to be delusional to believe, oh no, this same group, everybody gets healthy, they're gonna turn it right around. It's like, when everybody was healthy, y'all were still this bad.
Exactly.
Did you remember? You remember when y'all were healthy and y'all were still this bad? There's no reason to think you're gonna be better when everybody gets healthy unless you add some pieces. So,
yeah.
All right, there you go, Cowboys fans. We'll hear from Jerry Jones. There's a piece of audio. It's a quote that's coming back to haunt him now that all these moves are being made in the NFL. We just talked about the Ravens last hour and them acquiring Deontay Johnson from the Panthers. And now, add that to the list of, other teams like the Kansas City Chiefs who added DeAndre Hopkins and Josh Allen, and the Bills who added Amari Cooper and Devontae Adams going to the Jets. There are teams making moves. Actually, Cam Robinson, the left tackle, was traded to Minnesota from Jacksonville because they need a left tackle. And how can you justify doing nothing when you can see all the contenders, or at least a lot of the contenders around you, making moves to get better? All right, so we'll get to that. I want to talk about this Anthony Richardson benching because there's a macro element to it, and I think a micro element. I think the micro element actually is something we can relate to Texas as it relates to the Anthony Richardson benching. But we'll talk about it on the other side. But first, let's get updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Mavericks picked up a 120-114 win over the Timberwolves last night. Kyrie Irving had another big game, scoring 35, with Luka adding 24, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. Tonight, the Spurs take on the Thunder, who are the last remaining team without a loss in the Western Conference. In the World Series, the Yankees avoided a sweep with a big 11-4 win over the Dodgers. Anthony Volpe got the Yankees a lead with a grand slam in the third, and a Gleyber Torres 3-run homer in the eighth sealed the game for New York. Tonight, the Yankees will try to send the series back to L.A. with Game 1 starters Garrett Cole and Jack Flaherty back on the mound. And in the NFL, the Texans announced yesterday that wide receiver Stephon Diggs will miss the remainder of the season with a torn ACL. The news leaves the Texans with a big hole at wide receiver, with hopes that Nico Collins will be able to return off the IR in Week 10. And the Indianapolis Colts have decided to move on to Joe Flacco as a starter for Week 9. Anthony Richardson has a league-bottom 44% completion percentage for this season and the fourth worst QBR at 38.4. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the horn headlines. All right. Let's hit some of these stats about Anthony Richardson. I told you guys last week, I said, I don't know how the coach can justify keeping him in there because when he started dipping below the 50% completion rate in the NFL, I said that's usually the barometer for at least competent quarterback play. Can he complete half of your passes, if not more than half his passes? And he wasn't. And I said it's going to be really hard to justify keeping him in there because it's just hard to win games that way. And some would argue, well, if you're the coach, why if you signed up for this, right? You knew coming out of college that this guy was an inaccurate quarterback. And Richardson started just 13 games at Florida, right? And he completed 54% of his passes in college. Started just 10 games in the NFL and he's completing less than 50% of his passes this season. He's only 22 years old. So he's a baby. But this is something I remember the late, great Mike Leach saying. He said, I'd rather take a shortstop in baseball and turn him into a quarterback rather than take a QB with a big arm who's inaccurate. The shortstops are accurate with the foot, but with their baseball, they're accurate. They can throw it, boom, from different angles. They got to get the ball on the money. They only got small window they can throw the baseball to. Boom. He said, I'd rather take that and then train and teach him how to play quarterback because at least I know he's got accuracy within his skill set. Within his athletic profile, I know he's accurate. That's a data point. Because Mike Lee said the number one thing you got to look for in a quarterback is accuracy. He said, I can't teach it. He basically was like, I can't. He said, I'm a great quarterback, developer. I can't teach accuracy. And Sark's number one. He looks for two physical traits in his quarterbacks. The rest of it is immeasurable. He looks for a guy who's competitive, and he looks for a guy who's a natural leader. But the measurables he looks for are quick hands because he runs an RPO-based offense. So the mesh point, manipulation point are big, throwing from different arm angles, quick hands to go with his deception-based passing game, the sleight of hand, like a magician. And he looks for a quarterback who's accurate, period. Gotta be accurate because he runs a yak-based offense, right? Yards after the catch. So the ball's got to be on the money ball placement so that the receiver can catch the ball on the move and get full speed as quick as possible, get to his top speed. And you don't do that with stop routes. You do that with called movement routes. And that's why Quinn, y'all don't really like it, but Quinn, throwing all these underneath throws, which are essentially an extension of the running game, they don't work if he doesn't throw the ball accurately on the money. The ball placement's got to be perfect so that the ball carrier or the receiver can catch the football and there not be much hesitation and he not have to reset himself to try to, get those yak yards. That he can just kind of catch it in flow and in rhythm and boom, also go down there and have an opportunity to beat that one defender in one-on-one in the open field, which we've seen Trey Wisener do over and over again. You see the receivers, DeAndre Moore, do over and over again. That's all Sarkis engineering is a one-on-one on the outside. Throw it there accurately and you get there. Boom. Once it's accurate and once the ball's on the money, the receiver can do the rest. 80% of his, close to 80% of his total passing yards in that game against Vanderbilt came on yak yards. But I digress. Getting back to Anthony Richardson. So Anthony Richardson is not accurate. And that's why all throughout time, Bill Walsh, no matter what quarterback guru you're talking about, they're going to list accuracy as one of their top data points in evaluation. Because it's hard to teach. One of the exceptions to the rule is Josh Allen. Josh Allen's one of the only exceptions to the rule where a guy was inaccurate even during his evaluation. And they were adamant that, and I think we can teach him to be more accurate. I think we can do it. Usually you would advise against that. Like, you can't teach that. No, that's just, that's something that's natural, something that's ingrained and programmed early. And with Anthony Richardson, he's not accurate. So they knew what they signed up for. And that is a known, in my opinion, I think it's a pretty known, or at least belief. It's a widespread belief, I should say. I don't know if it's not widespread belief among NFL scouts. Can't teach accuracy. But they, as an organization, they wanted to do it. And that, you can argue that was mistake number one. And if you're going to do that, maybe that on top of throwing him out there to be the starter initially instead of sitting, that could have been a mistake on their part. And as a result, he's got a big arm, right? He's got the strongest arm in the NFL. He's in that conversation. His passer rating on 20-plus yard passes? 54. Worst in the league. Worst passer rating on deep balls in the league with the strongest arm. That is Anthony Richardson in a nutshell. That's him in a nutshell. There have been 1,078 quarterbacks to have 100 plus pass attempts in a season since 2000. Only 5 of them have a worse completion percentage than Anthony Richardson this season. That's it. Since 2000, if you go look at it, since 2000, there have been 826. It says here, in the first, if you look at the first 8 weeks of the season, so we're just taking the first 8 weeks of the season, right? There have been 826 quarterbacks since 2000 have attempted at least 100 passes through the first 8 weeks of the season. So we're taking another stat and we're just going to dive deeper into it. Among that sample size, Anthony Richardson's completion percentage ranks 823rd out of the 826. Not very good. So he hasn't, you're not improving on the accuracy issue. As a matter of fact, you can make the argument that he's less accurate than he was when he came out of college. And the whole point is you're trying to make him a more efficient passer. All the physical tools are there. He's a physical freak of nature. What you're trying to do right now is teach him how to play the quarterback position at a competent, capable level. And that's not happening right now. And then on top of that, we have the incident where he decides that he is going to remove himself out of the game in a critical moment of the game. And this, I think, has lit a firestorm. And I don't think that was the reason that he got benched, but it was definitely a factor in it. And it might have been the straw that broke the camel's back in this discussion. Do we have this Anthony Richardson sound? So he was asked in the post game why he took himself out of the game. Like, why at the quarterback position, why would you do that? And what was the reason? And I think his response did not help his cause.
Man, tired. I ain't gonna lie. That was a lot of running right there, what I did. And I don't think I was gonna be able to go that next play. So I just, just told Sam I just needed a break right there.
Yeah, that's one of those must-lose situations, in my opinion. I think, in that situation, you need to come up with another excuse. You had a cramp. There was something going on. Maybe you couldn't see. You were seeing stars at the time, whatever it may be, just to admit you was tired, and that's why you took yourself out. It is somewhat of a violation of the G code, if you will, in the locker room. The locker room, I believe, probably had a visceral response to this, because he's supposed to be the guy that leads them, and yet he decided to take himself out of the game. So in addition to him not being able to operate the quarterback position at even a competent level, which, obviously that we've talked about that and went over the stats. Now you're talking about him lacking some of those immeasurables that you look for in the quarterback position. We just talked about Sark. What does Sark look for? Competitiveness and leadership. Those are just 2 qualities you look for. 2 qualities that were lacking in that moment for Anthony Richardson. And Nick said, he was tired. I get it. It's a tough game. It's hard. I played it. Trust me. Somebody's taking me on multiple 9 routes on the same damn drive deep down the field and have me come back and just try to cover wide receiver screens and tackle guys over the field. Trust me. It's tough. I get it. But those immeasurables and those intangibles were lacking in that moment. And I think for the people who witnessed that, front office folks who witnessed it, the folks on the sideline, he went to the coach and asked the coach, can I come out of the game? That, I got to tell you, I want to know what Shane Steichen's response was to it. I'm sure he went along with it, but Shane Steichen probably should just call the timeout for the young man. I know it was a crucial situation, so I'm not going to details. Probably couldn't afford to call a timeout for such a, for such a ridiculous reason.
And also, I'm sure Shane Steichen in that second where he's trying to figure out the call for 3rd and 10, assumes that his quarterback is hurt in some form or fashion. That his quarterback either felt something, happen or whatever. So the reason he's coming out of the game is not because he's tired and he doesn't have time in that moment to walk over to him and say, hey, what's up? So he's calling the next play, trying to get the play in, and goes, all right, Flacco going, okay, all right, we're back at quarterback. We got to go run play. All right, now we got to figure out, is my quarterback going to be able to come back in the game? And he goes, oh, yeah, I can come back in next play. What? Wait, what happened?
Yeah, I'm going to go try to find Shane Steichen's sound and see if somebody asked him about actually how it all went down and how it happened and how he found out about it. Yeah, I don't know all those details, but I imagine he was shocked that he wasn't hurt and that he wasn't necessarily cramping up or limping. He was just tired.
No, and for more context, the play where he said there was a whole lot of running was him just scrambling behind the line of scrimmage, where he ends up getting tackled at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, it was like a D lineman that ended up
like he came up, almost got almost a sack, spun out of it, looked, spun again, gets to the outside, gets back to the line. And at any point in this, also could have just thrown it away.
Yeah, because that's true.
He could have just thrown it away and said, instead of just running around and I'll get because he still didn't get a gain. It wasn't like he had this huge open. He goes, I get to the outside and then I'm good. He could have thrown it away at any point, not taking the hit to the ground, not been as tired, gone back and gone the next play. But it's just awareness of understanding all of those pieces. I get you're 22, you're not in those moments, but it's that difference of when we talk about not drafting accurate quarterbacks. Josh Allen is one of the guys that will be a guy. Lamar Jackson is another guy who never had a 60% completion percentage in college and is a two-time MVP in the NFL. And so, there's going to be GMs who go, well, the completion rate. Now his completion percentage his senior year was much better than Anthony Richardson's, but he was never above a 60% completion percentage. And so you can say maybe there's that, but you go, well, but also Lamar Jackson was a guy who was a winner, who had that intangible quality of this guy feels like he's a winner. And Anthony Richardson, like Florida wasn't a dominant team. Florida wasn't really, he was okay there, but it wasn't like they had, I think, 3 losses in SEC play that when his senior year, or his last season playing.
It wasn't great.
And so if you say, well, he doesn't even have that intangible where he understands, I don't care in that moment, I'm getting a touchdown, we're winning this game. He doesn't really have that either. And so, I think that was the play where you lost the fan base of even the people that say that's the future of our franchise. And, we want Anthony Richardson, and he's an electric guy, and he can make special plays, and he can chunk it downfield. Man, if he cares less about this than I do at home, then why are we doing this?
Yeah, it's not gonna. I think you're right. I think he lost a lot of the locker room in that moment. I think he lost a lot of the trust of the coaches. I think he lost a lot of whoever was advocating for him to continue to be a starter in the front office. They've probably been having this discussion for a while in the front office. He probably lost that. And you're right, the fans as well. Once they found out, he just took himself out of the game in a critical moment. So for Anthony Richardson, I don't think they're giving up on him, but this is the process usually of them starting to at least entertain the possibility that he's not the guy. Now you can say, well, it's only been 10 games, but they're doing that, guys, earlier and earlier in the development of these quarterbacks. I'll give you, and I, went back and looked at this list of QBs of quarterbacks who have been benched recently, because it's happening a lot to young quarterbacks, because the NFL now is losing patience with young quarterbacks. They realize the NFL is giving them kind of a discount in drafting quarterbacks. You can draft them, get them really cheap for that rookie year. And if you don't, with that rookie contract, and if you don't like them, move on from them and go draft another quarterback. But that also means you're going to forsake any development. Like the NFL is not a developmental league. As a matter of fact, I read a quote, and I'll read it again, from Matt Miller, who's the NFL draft scout for, or at least the draft analyst for ESPN, and he's at NFL Draft Scout on Twitter. He says scouts and agents are telling college quarterbacks to not leave school until they've started at least 2 years. The NFL doesn't truly develop QBs anymore outside of rare exceptions. And there is some truth to that. The NFL is like, nah, we're not a quarterback developmental league, because you can tell how quickly they're giving up on quarterbacks, right? Anthony Richardson, 22 and benched, but he's going to still, obviously they're going to reset and come up with a new game plan for his development. But 10 starts in, they're like, nah, you're benched. Bryce Young got 23 and benched. They're talking about the trade talks already, that he may not be the guy, thinking about trading him. Remember Trey Lance and that experiment? 49ers gave up everything for Trey Lance. Thought he was going to be the future of the franchise, the face of the franchise. Nope, benched and traded. Justin Fields, as at 24 years old. Bryce Young's 23. Anthony Richardson's 22. Justin Fields, 25. Benched and traded already. Benched again. Will Levis, 25. Benched. Zach Wilson, 25, benched and traded. Mac Jones, 26, benched and traded. Kenny Pickett, 26, benched and traded. So I'm not saying that some of these don't work out. There's Caleb Williams, who's awesome, and Jaden Daniels looks like he's going to be great, and CJ Stroud has been fantastic. Brock Purdy, and he wasn't drafted high, but Brock Purdy has worked out. He's 24 years old, so there are young quarterbacks, but it does seem like the NFL is giving up on the quarterback development a little bit earlier or in that process. And I think there are a lot of different reasons for it. And I think there are a lot of different like consequences to it. One of the reasons I think that, they're giving up on these young quarterbacks is because older. A lot of quarterbacks are playing older. They're playing until later in their careers. Right. And they are kind of holding some of these spots too. A little bit longer than you would normally for like a quarterback. Now quarterbacks are playing into their mid to late 30s.
Yeah, Andy Dalton and Joe Flacco wouldn't normally be in the leagues.
Yeah, they're still, and so they're providing bridges.
Yeah,
right, for that normally wouldn't be there. Like let's get a bridge quarterback, and then we can move on from this rookie. It'll give us another option. They're better bridge quarterbacks now, because the veterans are just staying around longer. They're playing longer.
No, you wouldn't expect to have a 35-year-old Russell Wilson trying to prove himself.
Yes, exactly. Right. It's just so that's different. And that's strange. I think also because of them giving up on so one of the consequences, I guess, one of the kind of byproducts of them giving up on these quarterbacks so early, and it's been happening for a little while. I do think that's part of why we're seeing the circuitous route of quarterbacks to become either a franchise quarterback or maybe just to become a quarterback who is a glorified bridge quarterback that the team will invest in. Right, your Baker Mayfields, your Baker Mayfields of the story. Your Geno Smiths and your Jared Goffs and Sam Darnold, I think, may end up falling into that conversation too, potentially. That's why you're starting to see more of those stories, because the teams like, we're done, and that kid's a bust, and we're moving on from them. And then yet you'll see them, because the NFL is not really a developmental league. They'll end up developing on their own somewhat, and then they'll fall into a place and a really good system that actually is compatible with their skill set. And then voila, you're looking like, oh man, that quarterback's playing really, really well. And it's really more about they ended up in the right system, and they were on their own developmental track. So it's not on the timeline. The NFL scouts and the NFL head coaches want, because these guys are looking. This is the job security of NFL head coaches is also affecting this, because they now only have, on average, they're only at their jobs for less than 4 years too. There's not a lot of job security with coaches. So if there's not a lot of job security, I have to win now. And if I don't win because you're developing this quarterback, then I'm out. You don't bring somebody else in here by the time the quarterback is developed, and then they're going to reap all the benefits anyway. So I need to win right now. So there's a lot of different variables that are, I think, contributing to this lack of QB development and the hasty nature, kind of the hasty method of quarterback development in the NFL. And it seems to me, instead of, because they draft these quarterbacks high because they see certain data points in their evaluation and they believe these guys have the potential to be a franchise quarterback. And yet once they actually get a chance to see them and to watch them, and they get that sample size of the first, 10 games or so, it seems like they're already I don't know. I think they're ready to give up on their initial evaluation. They're ready to abandon their initial evaluation, even after just a small sample size of starts. To me, that is flawed. Something's off there, because why have so much faith that you are going to draft them high because of their raw material and the data points that they have, and you don't have a plan and kind of a holistic, all-inclusive organizational plan of how to develop them into being a franchise quarterback? That's crazy. It seems like they're just drafting really high-level elite traits, and if those traits don't end up translating to being a franchise quarterback, they'll give up on you. I brought it up earlier. There's an experiment that was done years ago about research about how quickly a woman or a man finds a person they meet attractive, and how quickly they determine whether they're a possible mate or partner. And they say it takes a woman like 90 seconds to 3 minutes. She knows quick, fast. Like, yeah, they're worth it. It seems like that's how quarterback development, or at least quarterback evaluation, has shifted. That basically they're looking for the it quality. And nobody can define the it quality. Nobody knows what it is. You know it when you see it. It's like the definition of of pornography. You know it when you see it, but nobody can really tell you what the it quality is. You just know when you saw CJ Stroud, you go, he's got it. He's got it. It's like every NFL team now is looking for that quality. And instead of having a comprehensive plan and method to develop that quarterback to transform those elite traits into an overall skill set to be a franchise quarterback, now it's just, do they have the it quality? And it reminds me of the great Mac Brown story he tells about Darrell K. Royal. Him and Darrell K. Royal, George Strait, and Willie Nelson on a football field. And a coach walks up to him. They're at a coaching clinic, and the high school coach says, Darrell K. Royal, how can I be like you? I want to be like you. Darrell K. Royal told him, if you have it, you'll make it. If you don't have it, you won't make it. If you don't know what it is, you ain't got a chance to make it. Coach looks stupefied, bewildered, looks at Mac, Willie, George Strait, and Darrell K. Royal, and just walks off, doesn't say a damn thing. Coach Darrell K. Royal looks at Willie Nelson, George Strait, and Mac Brown and says, see, hell, he ain't got it. And I think the moral of the story is that you can tell if somebody has that equality within the first 30 seconds. It don't take long. And they ain't got to say much to you. You can tell. And that's what they're almost turning quarterback evaluation into that. Does he have the quality? Nope. Let's move on. And that, I think that is flawed, because ultimately you're seeing later on some of those quarterbacks who have been given up on, them have a resurgence and a revitalization and a reinvention later on, because they do find the right system. They do have a quarterback guru or nurturer who's willing to be patient. All those things fall into place, and the right organization and the right vibe and the right culture falls into place, and you realize, oh, they're not a bum. Oh, they're not a bust. Turns out the NFL just they weren't patient enough and didn't have a plan of action to put into place to develop that skill set. I think that's happening a lot too. And some of these guys, they just ain't got it. Yeah. It's just that he ain't got it. Hell, he ain't got it. And that also is true too.
And it's happening earlier and earlier, because how many college teams switch quarterbacks like it's nothing now?
Oh yeah, you're right.
And hey man, switch it. You're benched. Cool, transfer out. You're done. You are the star of the franchise. Week 1, we were going to win a national championship to you. Week 6, man, where are you going next year? You ain't coming here. Taking away your scholarship. We got to get new guys in here. So you lost 2 games for us. You're gone.
That's the culture. That's the culture now you're right, in the NFL and now in college. It is.
I mean, so look, how many people are Texas fans right now? Everything Quinn's done. Cool. Go play somewhere else next year. We don't care. Put Arch in. I do not care about you or your future. We need to win games. And the best way for us to do that is not you anymore. We feel there's somebody else. And if Arch throws 4 picks, hey, Quinny boy, come on back here.
Yeah. No, you're right. What have you done for me lately? It is.
It's just, that's the culture now.
That is. And that's, like I said, it's not doing the quarterback development any favors. But we'll talk about this on the other side. The quarterback development conversation, it does relate to Texas. The NFL's quarterback development conversation, I think it relates to Texas, and I'll tell you why on the other side when we go behind the burn orange curtain. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to some Texas football conversation. One of the things that I wanted to get to, we were just talking about quarterbacks. I'll say this, and I brought this up earlier. Texas is in a unique position. We just talked about the culture of quarterback, whether it be college or the NFL. It's kind of a what have you done for me lately culture. A lot of transition, a lot of turnover, transfer portal, even in the NFL, right? Benching young quarterbacks, not a lot of investment in development. Sark's program is starting to represent the exact opposite. A lot of investment in development. Right? That's why, and I think the Mannings. I read the tweet from Matt Miller, NFL draft scout, saying that NFL scouts are saying they don't want a quarterback unless he's started at least 2 years in college, so a sample size they can trust. And the NFL doesn't truly develop quarterbacks anymore. He said scouts and agents are telling quarterbacks, "Hey, no, stay in college longer." That's literally what they told Quinn. Nope, stay in college longer. Stay in college longer. And so Quinn kind of got that message too. I think the Mannings, if anybody knows what's going on with the quarterback position in football, it's the Mannings. They're the first family of football, and their family business is quarterback. So for Arch Manning, people want to know, why is he so patient? Why is he staying behind Quinn, even though Quinn came back for another year? Why would Arch do that? Well, I think right now there could be an emphasis, even with the Manning family, on, hey, you need to get developed in college because the NFL ain't doing it. And you can't choose who's going to develop you in the NFL. You're just going to be stuck with some jabroni with one of the worst teams in the NFL. That's how they're going to draft you. And you got no control of who's going to develop you. But in college, if you're with the right guy, you can stay there as long as you want and get developed. And what they say the plan was for Manning, that he wants to stay. He wants to stay in after next year's 2 years as a starter. Man, they say he wants to stay 2 years as a starter. Why? Because of what they're just saying, guys. You're not going to get developed in the league anymore. And Manning's want to get developed. So you want to get developed, you got to get developed in college now, which is even harder to do, as we point out, because it is a what have you done for me lately culture there as well with the transfer portal, but not at Texas. You got guys like Malik Murphy, who's now starting at Duke, who decided he'll stay an extra year. Even after he was being courted after that great spring game, he wanted to stay an extra year at Texas. Why? Because he wanted to study under Sark. And he loved the team and everything else, but he wanted to stay in the quarterback position under Sark because it would make him better. And you're going to have that reputation that other than Lincoln Riley, all right, Sark's got one of the best reputations for a quarterback developer and quarterback nurturer and guru in all of college football. And so you'll have guys like Malik Murphy who want to be the backup, like Arch Manning is now, just to study, because they're studying in essentially a master's class of football. It's right. That's what I think Sark can offer. In addition to, yes, you can get NIL resources because Texas backups like Malik Murphy, like Arch Manning, they have opportunities for NIL deals. And if you are the starting quarterback, you might have the most lucrative NIL deals in the country, or at least among them. But so that's another added advantage that I think helps Texas kind of really carve out a unique space in the transfer portal landscape, especially when it comes to quarterbacks. But also, I think you're looking at now the pipeline developing. Quinn goes to the league, and then Arch follows that, and then people will see those two examples of guys who stayed longer in college, didn't go to the NFL quickly, and then stayed to be a backup behind another guy to wait their turn to study the quarterback position. And I feel like, you could end up developing that kind of reputation as a university for quarterbacks. And that would give you a unique advantage over everybody else. So I do think it is somewhat on a micro level related to what Texas is doing too, because it's such a quarterback-centric model that Sark has to see himself as a quarterback. And he actually approaches it from a holistic, organizational standpoint. Quarterback development must be organizational and it must be holistic. You must go all in. Everybody must be all in on the quarterback, the front office, the coaches, the locker room, everybody. And I think that also will aid in the development of the QB. But when everybody's not on the same page, it's going to be really tough for you to develop that quarterback into being a high-level draft pick, into being a franchise QB. And that's what I think Sark focuses on. And that's why the Mannings, I think, wanted Arch here in this program. But Arch is willing to be patient in this program. And Malik Murphy was willing to be patient. And I think it's why Quinn came back. All that related to the same conversation we're having right now about Anthony Richardson. Now, Quinn may go to the NFL and be just like these other guys getting benched. And hell, they find out, he ain't got it. But we're just talking about up until this point. I do think it's been very advantageous for Sark to have that reputation. Like I said, other than Lincoln Riley, I don't know who has a better reputation for developing quarterbacks than Sark in college football. But he is, I think, now building it in a different way with a newer approach, or at least a more, I say, more modern approach. Where, and it's hard to do, where guys are willing to sit and wait their turn. We'll see if he can get the next quarterback to do that. You're going to have guys who transfer. There's no question about that. But you got guys who are willing to sit around and help you stabilize the position. Malik Murphy, Arch Manning. That's rare these days. That's why most teams have very, volatile quarterback situation, because one guy leaves. Look at Oklahoma. Oh, all right, we're SOL. We thought this guy was going to be it. Now he ain't. But at Texas, you guys are literally arguing that Arch needs to play, and you got a quarterback who's going to be potentially a first-round pick in front of him. First world problems at quarterback at Texas. And I think that's what Sark's going to have going forward, is first world problems at Texas at the quarterback position, because of the method and the model that he has created. All right, we come back. We'll get into Off the Record on the other side, wacky stories from the sports world, sometimes beyond, and we'll get into that here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into a little off the record here. I know we're up against it, so I'll try to be quick here. And speaking of quick, Giselle was pretty quick. I don't know if you saw this story. and I was a little bit surprised by it. We heard reports that Giselle Bundchen, Tom Brady's ex, that she had already moved on and she was dating. Right, she's already moved on
Is
dating.
this the jujitsu instructor?
Yeah, we are past the dating phase, bro. She's reportedly pregnant. Giselle Bundchen, this comes from page 6, is pregnant, expecting baby with boyfriend Joaquim Valente. And I believe he is the jiu-jitsu guy, right? Sounds like a jiu-jitsu guy anyway.
Yeah.
Giselle and Joaquim are happy for this new chapter in their life, it says, and they're looking forward to creating a peaceful and loving environment for the whole family. That happened fast. I guess it's been how long has it been? Has it been like 2 years?
Wait,
it's been a couple of years. Though. It's been a couple of years.
Because he's been retired now for a year, and
it's been a couple of years.
This was the last year of his NFL because he came back, and that's what caused the divorce. So he was still in the NFL when they were getting divorced.
Yeah, but remember, they moved. She did move on quickly, though. Remember the reports about her dating this dude.
She moved on. No, she moved on when he was still in the Patriots. So
yes, yeah. And this dude reportedly, Tom Brady knows this dude. This dude used to give the family like jujitsu lessons, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say like that was the story. Maybe that was a rumor.
I know
Tom Brady knows him because he's been giving them. He's their jujitsu instructor. It's like, well, he was giving her more than jiu-jitsu lessons. You know what I'm saying?
No, he knew because he talked to the kids and they'd be like, Mom is getting a lot of jiu-jitsu. She goes, Dad, you better watch out. Mom's gonna beat you up. She's been doing jiu-jitsu all night long.
She's doing 2-a-day jiu-jitsu. She said if Dad's going to do 2-a-days, then she's doing 2-a-days too. I'm not really understanding what's going on today.
She got a live-in jiu-jitsu instructor.
Seriously. Oh man. So there you go. Yeah, the jiu-jitsu. He's 35 years old. She's 44. How's that little cougar action going on here?
That's not 35, 44 is not crazy.
It's not crazy, but it's still cougar-esque.
No, you gotta be. It's gotta be at least a decade. At least.
No, you're in your cougar. You're a cougar when you're in like your 40s and 50s, and then you become like a panther in your 60s, and I think you're like a saber tooth in your 70s, like a saber tooth.
Yeah,
old. Yeah, so she's cougar. What's wrong with that? But in terms of like, I'm not. Yeah, she's not like it's not ridiculous. She's not dating some dude who's way younger.
Yeah.
But hey, man.
No, well, I mean, she may have been when they started. He was probably in his 20s.
I have no idea. They said she and Valente sparked dating rumors in November 2022 after he was seen accompanying her and her children on a vacation in Costa Rica.
Oh, going on vacation.
The outing came just 1 month after the model filed for divorce. 1 month. Come on, man. That's a little too soon. Come on. No. She said at the time there was nothing romantic happening. It's like, you can't believe it. She said there was nothing romantic going on. You in some exotic location.
Rod, what was the stat you gave earlier about how soon women know if they're interested?
Take them 90 seconds to 3 minutes
to
find out whether you're capable.
We were just friends.
Yeah.
We were just friends. 90 seconds to 3 minutes. We were just friends for.
Yeah, you're right. That's the guy she told you not to worry about. That's usually how it goes down. So although the pair tried to keep their relationship under wraps, page 6 exclusively revealed in February of 2024 that Bundchen and Valente were deeply in love. And so maybe it's real love.
Maybe it's real love. Or maybe he was teaching jiu-jitsu and he found a super hot, super rich lady.
Yeah, man, trust me, I'd put a bun in that oven. I would quick fast in a hurry. I mean, that's a smart move by Valente. Valente, well done. Well done, Valente. Good for you, sir. Good for you. That's how you make an investment right there. All right, we come back. We'll have my man Nick Shuley with Setlist ATX. We'll have that as well as getting back to some of the other newsworthy items of the day, including all the trades that took place yesterday in the NFL. And of course, we'll get back to talking some Texas football. Stephon Diggs. We'll talk about what that injury means for the Texans and their championship hopes. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. Coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a One Artist Wednesday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host Patrick, the Idealionaire, he comes up with all the musically themed days of the week. But on a One Artist Wednesday, he goes deep into the catalog, down the rabbit hole of one specific artist, group, or band. And today, that artist, group, or band, Red Hot Chili Peppers, is who will be featured for One Artist Wednesday. So we appreciate Patrick hooking us up there. He also hooks us up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, which is already posted at the Horn ATX for you Cowboys fans out there. Patrick, what is the topic for the big fat poll of the day?
Big fat poll of the day today. What should the Cowboys do at the trade deadline? We did get several comments that are basically he needs to sell the team, fire the GM. Basically the same concepts going after Jerry Jones. So that is a prevailing thought as well. But we gave you 4 options on the poll because if I picked that one, it would have got 100% votes. Yeah. We gave you do nothing, go all in, trade players away, and just small trades. Trade players away. People so frustrated with this team right now.
And they want to blow it up.
Just blow it up. Trade players away. And I get too, people want to trade Dak Prescott. You can't do that. But like you could fit, like cap wise, you can't do that without killing your franchise. So you can't trade players away though. 61% of the votes, 15% do nothing, 15% go all in, and 9% the Rod Babers way of just small trades. 9%. It's the most rational. It makes the most sense. Nobody wants it.
Nobody wants it. Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm basically saying you're not that far away. Cowboys fans are like, no, we're so far away. Just blow up the whole damn thing and let's start over. I don't think that's, I don't know if that's the route that Jerry Jones is going to go because Jerry Jones needs something to sell. You do that, you got nothing to sell.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones needs something to sell.
I mean, he's still got the tours.
He still got the tours. Tours won't matter though if you're a 500 team or something like that. I guess you can't be 500 or close to it anyway. So we'll get into it. Or we'll talk about. I think just trade for a running back, trade for a run stuffing D tackle, and those 2 places. I think you start there. I really do think the Cowboys can contend to win the division if that's the case, and then you can think about where you sit in the kind of hierarchy of the NFC right now. But right now, Cowboys, one of the more inactive teams that we've seen this offseason and now right before the trade deadline. We'll talk more NFL news, notes, and nuggets. We'll get to Stephon Diggs' unfortunate diagnosis. He's was diagnosed with a torn ACL. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. So we'll talk about what that means for the Texans because Nico Collins, remember, he was the number 1 wide receiver in the league, actually. He was in terms of leading the league in yards per game, receiving yards per game when he got hurt that hamstring. So he's been out for a while. And now you have your second leading receiver and the guy who had been running in that role as the number 1 receiver. He's going to be out. So we'll talk about what the options are for the Texans going forward. But first, we got Setlist ATX coming up with my man Nick Shuley. But after we get to the Horn headline, so we'll do that first, and then we'll have Nick come up and tell us all about the very talented folks who are going to be in town and where you can go enjoy some of their talent. We'll get into that in Setlist ATX. But first, let's get educated, informed, and updated with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Mavericks picked up a 120-114 win over the Timberwolves last night. Kyrie Irving had another big game, scoring 35, while Luka added 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. Tonight, the Spurs take on the Thunder, who are the last remaining team without a loss in the Western Conference. In the World Series, the Yankees avoided a sweep with a big 11-4 win over the Dodgers. Anthony Volpe got the Yankees a lead with a grand slam in the 3rd inning, and a Gleyber Torres 3-run homer in the 8th sealed the game for New York. Tonight, the Yankees will try to send the series back to L.A. with Game 1 starters Garrett Cole and Jack Flaherty back on the mound. And in the NFL, the Texans announced yesterday that wide receiver Stephon Diggs will miss the remainder of the season with a torn ACL. The news leaves the Texans with a big hole at receiver with hopes that Nico Collins will be able to return off the IR in Week 10. And the Indianapolis Colts have decided to move to Joe Flacco as a starter for Week 9. Anthony Richardson has a league-bottom 44% completion percentage this season and the 4th worst QBR at 38.4. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. I mean, it's an ugly situation there in Indy. We talked about that last week. I was like, I just figure they're gonna make some type of move, but he couldn't justify keeping a quarterback in there that can't complete 50% of his passes in the league, guys. Just not going to happen. But I will say, and I went back and I was looking at quarterbacks drafted from 2021 to 2023, so just a 3-year sample size. You got 3 quarterbacks that you pretty much hit on in those 3 years of NFL draft. Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy, and C.J. Stroud are the only ones that pretty much hit. Any of those other quarterbacks, I don't think you hit on any of them at all.
Yeah.
Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Davis Mills, Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, Bryce Young, Aiden O'Connell, Bailey Zapp, Will Levis, Trey Lance, Anthony Richardson, Sam Ellinger, Skylar Thompson, Dorian Thompson Robinson, Malik Willis, Jaron Hall, Ian Book, Clayton Tune, Sean Clifford, Kyle Trask, Kellen Mond. So either it's just it may just be it's just toughest position to play in sports. And you know what? It's just rare to find quarterbacks who can play this position at a high level, at the highest level.
Yeah.
Which is the NFL.
If you've learned anything from that, let's draft 10 this year in the first round. Let's go all in, everybody.
Yeah. That's basically where you are. I mean, your hit rate is so low that the chances of you basically gonna be one good quarterback out of every draft, basically going forward with the way that things are trending, pretty much, right? You got one that hit in that 2021 draft. You got one hit in 22. That was Brock Purdy. And you got one that hit in 23, and that was C.J. Stroud. That's where we are now, guys. One. Not at one in the first round. One in the whole damn draft.
Well, I will say this year's draft, there's some hope because Caleb looks okay.
Yes. And Jay Daniels is amazing.
Daniels looks really, really good. Bo Nix has a winning record.
Bo Nix actually has not been bad. He's running a lot, but Bo Nix has not been terrible.
He hasn't been terrible, but he has a winning record, so give him that.
And remember, the Vikings quarterback was playing really well.
We thought J.J. McCarthy was going to play well before the season.
He looked good.
Just saying, we're just going to say that some of those teams feel like they still have a hope in that one. Odds would tell you if 2 of them turn out well, you did great in the draft class. But I'll say there's hope for there's hope for 2 in this one.
I know. So when it's trending this way, you either wonder, is it the developmental issues in the NFL because they don't invest in development anymore and don't care about development? Or is it what Patrick mentioned, and development at the college level has also been distorted because of the transfer portal, NIL, and you don't have quarterbacks that stay in systems at the same schools long enough to get developed in college anymore either. So they're less developed now coming out of college than they used to be. Now the NFL's like, man, you need to stay in college and start long because I need a sample size so that I can make a thorough evaluation so I don't lose my damn job as a scout. Because I can't, you know what I mean? Because I can't evaluate.
And throw in the fact that you're now drafting everybody top 10, 15. So the expectations are extremely high. Whereas if you draft J.J. McCarthy in the 3rd round, then he sits out 2 seasons. No one really cares. You bring him in his 3rd season, you can develop him. But if you pick him 9, 10 overall, he's got to go. Unless you're Atlanta, and then you can do whatever the hell you want.
Oh, man, you're right. That's a good point. Atlanta's the exception to the rule right now. Green Bay's the exception to the rule, right? Green Bay can do. But you're right. Most teams, you got to play those guys. All right, good stuff there. All right, let's bring in my man Nick Shuley so we can dive into Setlist ATX. Nick, how you doing, brother? Appreciate you joining us as always. We know that you're a busy man, so we appreciate you taking the time.
Man, I'm doing great, man. Appreciate you guys for having me as always.
Yeah. First of all, what are your thoughts about the Red Hot Chili Peppers? It seems like that pretty controversial band. People are kind of torn on the Chili Peppers.
Oh, this is gonna make some people mad. I despise them.
I told you.
No, you're not the only one. Yeah, Patrick said that earlier.
There are very few bands that I just cannot stand, and I don't know why, man. They're in that. I'm a Libra. I'm pretty much in the middle on everything. You know, I'm a peacemaker, but I can't do it.
I told you, Rod.
Yeah.
I told you.
No, that is good. That's a good point. Like, what's the band, a popular band artist that you just like? I can't stand it. Like, I have to leave the room, or you have to turn it off when I hear it.
People think the Chili Peppers are like either think they're like geniuses, like the most musical geniuses, or else they are the worst thing you've ever. And there's
clowns.
Like Reddit threads, and I'm not this deep in it. There's like Reddit threads on how bad Anthony Kiedis' lyrics are when you like pull them out of the music, and it's like it's pretty funny, I will say, but it's not my thing. No, but hey, to each their own.
If you're looking at Anthony Kiedis for good lyrics and the Red Hot Chili Peppers, that is not what this band is based on.
Yeah.
No, he's a vibe guy. They're a vibe. It's a vibe. You gotta feel. You gotta be in. You feel the vibe. That thing. No. I don't know who is like that. I think honestly, it may be. I used to think about that like Black Eyed Peas. Remember the Black Eyed Peas? I couldn't stand the Black Eyed Peas because they just didn't know what they wanted to be. They had no identities. They're either pop, hip hop.
Well, they were like a backpack hip hop group, and then they added
Fergie.
They added Fergie, and then turned into this total pop group. So they lost every fan they had, but then like quintupled their fan base because they crossed into mainstream. So
yeah, you're right.
They were very different periods.
Yeah, good point there. All right. We'll give my man Nick's thoughts about Setlist ATX, but let me remind everybody that Nick does a great work with the crew. Our Third and Longhorn crew is myself and Fozzie Whitaker, Derek Johnson, Alex Okafor, Jeremy Hills. We have a lot of fun doing the Third and Longhorn podcast. You can go check that out where you get all of your podcasts. We haven't done this week's episode. We're going to do that today, and then we'll get that out to the folks.
Hopefully. Yeah, no, we'll
hopefully.
be well. So it's the bye week, so we're working on a
Fingers
player interview, but it's coordinating schedules gets a little tough. But we'll for sure. I mean, this is kind of I guess our off week since the team's off. So we'll we're going to put out a short little bye week thing that Jeremy Hills and Alex Okafor and I did after the game. But
nice.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll hopefully we have one today. But we'll just play it by ear.
Yeah. See, Nick is like organizing stuff behind the scenes. So
that's
what he's basically doing. He's probably been texting this morning with people trying to get everything done. We appreciate Nick, and you'll appreciate the Third Longhorn podcast as well. All right, let's get right to it. Nick is here for Setlist ATX when he lets us know exactly where all these very talented musicians are going to be when they come into town. And a lot of times we learn something new. You can actually sound cool in front of all your friends. Nick, what's the first day today, Hump Day? What's the first lineup of shows that you want to talk about for Setlist ATX?
Yeah, really talented singer-songwriter Rachel Yamagata will be at 3:10, and then Michigander will be over at Antone's, and yes, he is from Michigan. He's from Kalamazoo, Michigan. And Tori Kelly, a former American Idol singer, will be over at Emo's. And then a really big kind of, I would call it like French progressive instrumental, if that's a thing. Air will be at the Moody Amphitheater. They were the ones that scored the Virgin Suicide movie a long time ago.
I actually remember that movie back then.
It was a really good soundtrack. Yeah, it's very ambient, very chill. Like, yeah, you can imagine what the people will be doing there. And then another good songwriter, Justin Nizuko, will be at the Parish, as well as Bay Area rapper G-Eazy will be over at Stubbs. And then Thursday is a big night, obviously, with Halloween. There's a lot of good music going on, but it's also the start of Levitation Fest, which is a super cool kind of Austin institution. I believe it used to be Psych Fest, but now it's Levitation. Yeah. And so it goes from Halloween till November 3rd. And it's cool because they spread it all. It's mainly headquartered out of the Far Out Lounge, but they spread it all over the Red River clubs as well as the East Side. So it helps a lot of the venues, does a lot of cool stuff. There's a bunch of good artists coming to that. So I'll kind of go into those by day. Nice. But at Stubbs will be one of Austin's most legendary dark rock bands. The Black Angels will be over there. And then enormous DJ Fatboy Slim, who a lot of us remember from the mid 90s, will be over at Concourse Project. And then night one of STS9 will be over at ACL Live for all you jam band folks. And followed by Friday will be night 2 of that. And then a part of Levitation Fest, Jesus Lizard, who are another legendary Austin noise rock band. They'll be over there. And then for all our parents, Three Dog Night will be out at Green Hall for night 1 of their show. And then New York indie pop group, as part of Levitation, the Drums, will be at Mohawk. And then Saturday we get 2 nights of legendary boppers. Hanson will be at Emo's. And then Tycho will be out at a Far Out Lounge. Tycho's super cool, very down-tempo, ambient, probably a lot of similar crowd to the Air show. And then Three Dog Night will be doing night 2 over at Green Hall. And big-time Texas country artist Corey Morrow will be in Cedar Park at the Hotspot. And then legendary Puerto Rican singer Mark Anthony will be at the Moody Center. Yeah, that's a big one.
Big time.
And then Sunday will be night 2 of Hanson at Emo's. And then
how old is Hanson now?
They got to be.
Weren't they like a teen pop group or something?
I guess like
they're three brothers.
They got to be like 35,
like kids.
35,
they were like
right?
You so they're still doing the same type of stuff.
I would assume that the oldest is at least in his 40s.
You think? Yeah,
I would
you're
say
right.
The oldest one. The youngest one's probably in his mid 30s.
Can you perform mbop when you're 40?
I'm sure they do it differently.
Yeah, it's more music. Okay, I will say they're very talented.
Like a jazz version of it.
Yeah. Well, just not as high.
Yeah,
tune down a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little harder to hit those notes after puberty.
Right? That's what I was wondering. I was like, because I kind of remember it, but I was like, I thought they were like kids. Okay, anyway.
Okay,
continue.
so the
Sorry,
singer, the only one I saw, Taylor Hanson, is 41.
Oh wow, okay.
So he was the
this
middle
says
one.
I want. Yeah.
So
how does the cut? So they make? I mean, you know what? I'm asking too many questions about Hanson.
Yeah,
I want to know like they're making new music, but everybody wants to hear the old Hanson. You don't want to hear the new Hanson stuff, right?
mean,
no, I think I know some girls that are still big Hanson fans.
Wow.
So I think they grew up with them, and then as they evolved as women, the Hanson evolved as musicians, and they just kept following.
I'm sure those are very defensive conversations. Like no one's coming at you being like, "Oh yes, I totally support your love for Hanson." It's like, wait, what?
No,
Like,
I think it's weird
seriously.
when you're like, "Have you heard the new Hanson album?" You're like, "New."
That's weird. Exactly.
All right.
Nobody.
But I
There's a
get
new
it.
Hanson album.
They're musicians. It's not like they didn't know how to keep making music.
That's true.
That's
Good
gotta be
point.
rough when
That's-
someone
that's
says
fair.
when you tell people your band name and you'd be like, "You guys are still together?
Yeah.
You guys still make music?"
It's weirder when New Kids on the Block is doing it. Because New
Oh,
Kids
no,
on the
that
Block
is
was a
weird, yeah.
manufactured boy band. Hanson were brothers.
Yeah,
Yeah. So they were always performing, but
Yeah,
then
so
they
they were
finally
like fans.
became.
They were
public.
fans.
they're
Yeah.
Oklahoma, right?
That's
I'm
true.
pretty sure they're
they
from
are
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma,
Yeah.
That's a good point. All right. Sorry, my bad.
No, no,
the real
that
thing
was
the
a good-
Hanson question.
That was a good
Continue.
rabbit hole. I liked it. There's a big show for a lot of the shoegaze scene on Sunday. That is Slow Dive will be at Levitation. They're a really cool band. And then a big one over at the Moody Center, Pink, will be out there.
Oh, that is big.
That one's going to be, I'm sure there'll be a lot of theatrics at that one. And then one of the best metal bands that ever come out of Austin, The Sword, will be at Stubbs as part of Levitation. And then on Monday, a cool series put on by Home, which is the housing opportunities for musicians and entertainers. They help house elderly musicians in Austin. There will be doing a little fundraiser piece at the Saxon Pub with Ray Benson and Mitch Ballard. And Ray
That's
Benson
cool.
of Asleep at the Wheel, for those who don't know. And a cool folk show over at Scoot In, Mark Amber. And then a big show for the old emo kids like myself. Census Fail will be there with Saves the Day. Saves the Day will be performing their Through Being Cool record, I believe. I think they're doing it all the way through, which is a big deal for us emo dorks. So I have tickets to that. We'll see if I get out there. That's what's that's how you know you're old.
Yeah, we'll see if I make it out there.
I
may
make
pass out.
donations to venues and bands all the time.
Yes.
All right, Nick. We appreciate you, brother, as always. Know you're a busy man. I might see you later today.
Yeah,
I might not.
hopefully it happens.
Hopefully we do. All right, that's Nick Shuley. Thanks, Nick, for the time, man.
Thank
you for
y'all as
setting this
always. Y'all are the
ATX.
best.
All right, that is Nick Shuley. You can cyber stalk him via social media, I believe. Just look for Nick Shuley. He's not trying to hide from you. All right, we'll appreciate Nick. We come back. We'll get into. I want to talk about the Stephon Diggs injury. I've been trying to avoid it because it's heartbreaking as a Texans fan to discuss it. We'll talk about what the options are for the Texans moving forward there. We'll also get back into the discussion about Anthony Richardson being benched for the Colts and some of the other NFL news, notes, and nuggets, including the Ravens making another move because the Ravens think they're close. And the Ravens are not taking any chances, man. They are filling in as many holes on that roster as they can because they know they got the Kansas City Chiefs. It's the only team that they got to look ahead to. We'll talk about that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. We'll have a smorgasbord here because I want to get into some of the moves that were made yesterday and some of the headlines from the NFL. Let's talk about Stephon Diggs. Unfortunately, Stephon Diggs sustained an injury in the game versus the Colts. It was confirmed yesterday by D'Amico Ryans that injury indeed is a torn ACL. He will be out for the rest of the season. You got Nico Collins dealing with a hamstring injury. Prior to going on the IR, he was leading the NFL in receiving yards per game, but you don't have him available right now for you either. And now with the loss of Stephon Diggs, I don't think you can rush Nico back. You don't want to be arrogant about your status right now, right, in the division, but you're going to win that division. You can win that division without Nico and without Stephon Diggs, pretty much. I think that's how much better you are than everybody else in that division. But you're going to need Nico for that playoff push, and you're going to need him for the end of that season. We talk about this, Patrick, the end of that season. That's really when kind of the proven time is for the Texans because they got some big games later in the season, including, playing Kansas City later on too. So I think that's when you want Nico Collins healthy, all right, at his healthiest, and hamstrings can be fickle, it can be iffy. You got to, try to make sure you get them healed up as much as possible. So I wouldn't rush Nico back. And if you're not going to rush Nico back, you're going to be careful with him because you want to make sure you have him for the playoff push. Your options are John Mechie, all right, Xavier Hutchinson, Tank Dell, and Robert Woods. Do you believe that is enough, or should the Texans go out and get another option at wide receiver? I think they should.
I think they should too. I think you've gone in far enough that, you might as well, if you're in for a penny, in for a pound, right? And that's kind of where it feels like it is right now. You got to remember, so they play on Thursday Night Football. They play tomorrow night against the Jets, which Nico's out for no matter what because he's on IR. So he will be out for that game. Yeah. Can't even talk about it. That's good. Then the next week, you come back week 10, you are playing the Lions.
Whew.
So that is a game for two parts of this. Now, that is a game where you can say, screw it. It's not trying and rushing back. Yeah. We get it. It's just going to be a rough game. It's just going to be a rough one. Everybody knows it's just going to be a rough one, guys.
Let's see what we're made of. I agree.
Let's go just try and go out there and play hard, but it's going to be rough, right? We can do that. Or you could have the team, and Nico Collins being one of them, saying, screw all y'all. Y'all put me back in the game. I want to go play against the best. I'm fine. And now you don't know again. Nico Collins, that hamstring injury could have been healed by week 2 of being gone.
They could have been cautious from the get-go with it.
Yeah, and so every report has been that he is completely on schedule for what they've been doing, and there's been no setbacks. That still can change at any point, but so it could have been that they were more precautious at the beginning, so they have been already precautious, and you don't have to really be anymore. But the fact that it is the Lions is the next week's game puts you at a little bit more of a disadvantage that you can't feel you have any shot to beat them really with Tank Dell as your number one receiver. And I like Tank Dell, but if he's your number one and Mechie's your number 2 and Woods is, you're kind of going down where you just don't really have the options there. And even if Joe Mixon can run, they're just going to key off on Joe Mixon and try and get those guys beaten, man.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't even know if I would. Like I said, if he basically had everything healed up by week 2 of his 4 weeks on IR, and they were already being cautious, like they didn't really need to put him on IR, but they figured, hey, no, let's put him on IR to be safe, and it'll give us another spot on the roster. Then he can play versus the Lions. But man, if he was just starting to get if they just started to see him turn the corner, and like the 3rd week, the beginning of the 4th week of that 4 weeks in IR, I would keep him out. I wouldn't even risk it. I want to give that hamstring as much time to recover as possible, and I would make a trade for a receiver if I was the Texans. And the beauty is there are a lot of receivers out there that I think you actually could. Now, how many of them fit your system and your scheme? That's a different discussion, because there were some reports that what about Deontay Johnson? Why didn't the Texans reach out since they already knew about the status of Stephon Diggs? And they did not reach out to the Panthers inquiring about Deontay Johnson. And there were some reports accompanying that one that said that he just didn't fit the their system and what they wanted.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also a lot of reports about Deontay Johnson that the price was low because of his history in the locker room.
Yeah, as I say, whatever it was. Good point. I don't know if it was on field or him, his disposition, personality. I'm not sure why, but there were reports that Texans didn't feel like he would fit. They didn't really. That's why they didn't inquire about him, whatever that may be. So if that is the case, I mean, I think, like I said, I still would trade for somebody if I'm the Texans.
I mean, I'd be at least making phone calls.
Yep,
I'd be at least be working the phones and seeing if there's anybody still out there that maybe somebody wants to give up. You're also, if you're the Texans, don't have your bye week until week 14. So you still got a little ways to go before you get that break. You're going to have a little bit more attrition in that wide receiver room. It's just natural throughout the season that guys are going to get banged up and miss games. So to bring in somebody that if Tank Dell misses a game, you get another number 2 in there to give you a solid 2 or 3, depending on where Tank Dell fits in with CJ Stroud in those. I think that you could really use it as you kind of go through the next, because you play the Lions on Sunday Night Football. The next week you're on Monday Night Football against the Cowboys. So you are playing in primetime games as well. That, as much as it does, they're all wins or losses at the end of the day. When you're talking about getting your team and your morale in the right place, those are big games that those guys want to shine in those games. So if you can bring in somebody else to help lift your image and lift up that team morale by bringing somebody else in, I'm all for it at this point.
Yep, no, I totally agree with that. We'll see. Obviously, I'm with Patrick. You probably won't see anything this week because of the short week for the Texans, but maybe you will. But I think Nick Caserio, he's definitely on the phones working, trying to figure out something. Will he actually make something happen? We shall see. Let's talk about somebody who did actually, a team that did make a trade. They made it happen. The Baltimore Ravens. They acquired Deontay Johnson, we talked about earlier. Essentially, they traded a 5th in 2025 for Deontay Johnson and a 6th. So, I mean, that value pretty much cancels each other out. They got him for pennies, got him for nothing. And for Baltimore, it's really important that they add another piece to the wide receiving core. Their formula right now forces teams to have to play them man probably more than teams are comfortable with, because you have to deal with Lamar Jackson, the best dual threat quarterback in NFL history. So you put a spy on him as much as you can. You got to deal with the lead rusher in the NFL, Derrick Henry, whose style of running is a downhill running style that is punishing. So, you don't want to play him with sub packages a lot of times. You want to play, if you are, you're going to play him with extra guys in the box, because you don't want one-on-ones with Derrick Henry because he's so good at breaking tackles on the second level. And so you're stacking the box with a team that can run the football really effectively against a running back who's physical and a downhill runner. And with that being said, you're going to end up playing man-to-man a lot more than you would like to in those situations. The problem is, the Baltimore receivers, they don't consistently win in man-to-man. Right? Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers is probably their best option, and at the wide receiver position. Their tight ends are great, Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. We're talking about the wide receivers on the outside in terms of them winning one-on-ones. And I think that's why they're getting another guy that can just win a one-on-one battle on the outside of wide receiver, because that fits their formula. When you have to stack the box against them, which you inevitably will have to at one point, and you have to spy Lamar Jackson because he's just that damn good, your corners, your DB is going to be on an island. And Lamar Jackson right now is throwing from the pocket as well as any quarterback in football. Probably not named Jared Goff at this point, but he's throwing the football as well as anybody. And with Todd Monken's vision, they have a new spread attack that formationally is going to stress you out too, because you got to defend the power running game that they present. But then also you got to defend all the spread concepts as well. In addition, so it's a lot of stress factors on a defense. And one thing they're missing right now is receivers that can consistently just go win on the outside. If it's man-to-man, all right, Lamar, just find a matchup you like, boom, because he's going to win. They don't really have that right now. And this is why I like, what's his name, Eric DaCosta. I think he's the GM there now. If you go look at, even when they had Ozzie Newsome, this was still the case. But with really good GMs, they're looking at the present, but also looking toward the future. And you can tell that the GM, Eric DaCosta, of the Ravens, is looking toward the future. He's looking at the Kansas City Chiefs right now in real time, right? Not only is the undefeated team in the AFC, but looking at their strengths and their blueprint and how it measures up and matches up with Kansas City, right? Because what most people don't know about Kansas City's defense is right now, it's arguably, arguably the best rush defense in the NFL. It's a net discussion. Right now, it is, if you go look at it, I went over these numbers earlier. So their success rate versus the run against running back runs. So we're talking about traditional handoffs here with the Chiefs. They have the best success rate, defensive success rate versus running back runs, 72%. If you look at yards per carry, they're first in yards per carry allowed on running back handoffs. They have a 16% first down touchdown percentage allowed. That's third among teams versus the run. They have a 5% 10-plus yard rush rate allowed. So only 5% of the runs that they defend against are 10-plus yards or more. They are allowing 0.80 yards before contact. So they're allowing less than a yard before contact per carry. If you look at their yards per carry after contact, they're allowing 2.17 yards per carry after contact. Those are first and second. So they are right now a top 3 rush defense in the league. They were number 2 last time I looked at rush defense. So they match. And by the way, they haven't played a lot of scrub running games too. They've played Bijan, they played Derrick Henry, they played against Jordan Mason and the 49ers, Alvin Kamara. They played against some of the better, more dynamic running backs in the league and more creative running games in the league. And running backs have scored. You go look at it, and they haven't been able to break a lot of runs against Kansas City. And if Kansas City also can stop your running game, but they also have probably some of the more physical corners in the NFL too. They play a lot of bump and run on the outside, a lot of press coverage on the outside, and they do as well as anybody in the league with Spags as a DC. That is a bad matchup for Baltimore because they can stop Baltimore's running game, which is the engine of the offense, and they can do it really well. Spags plays a lot of sub packages, blitzes with his DBs a lot, which means you got speed on the field to match up with speed of Lamar Jackson. So we have our spies on him that can actually run with him as well as anybody can. And you look at the corners they have on the outside, where their corners can play press, which means they can shut down the quick game and the RPO game. Also a big part of what Lamar Jackson and the Ravens do. And they can just lock down your wide receivers and win more than their fair share in man-to-man situations. They can make life hell on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. That's why you bring in a Deontay Johnson. We need another potential variable that could help us, that could work out for us. Because looking forward to Kansas City, they have all the elements to neutralize and I can say shut down, but to really suppress the weaponry for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And that's what your GM is supposed to do. Your GM is supposed to be doing that, Cowboys fans. Not only looking at what you need, but looking at the rest of the league and what's in front of you and being able to come up with a really good or a game plan or a solution that will give you a better plan of success or a plan of action going forward. The Cowboys don't.
No, and then I saw a thing Adam Schefter brought up this morning that there is a possibility that if, depending on how he plays for the rest of the season, that Deontay Johnson, if he does decide to leave in free agency after this year, because he's a free agent after this year, unrestricted free agent, they could be in line to get a compensatory pick back as the Ravens could. So,
oh yeah, good point.
So they could make this trade for a 5th round pick and then possibly get a 5th or 6th round pick back in compensatory pick. If he plays really well, they'll get a 4th round pick back for him and actually improve their pick that they trade away for him. So there's a chance that that's just kind of, one of those smart moves you make where you bring in somebody, you give up a pick for him, it's a rental, but at the end of the day, you may end up still getting that pick back as a compensatory pick.
Yeah. Playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers.
Yeah.
That's what looks like the Ravens are doing. So, yeah, man, that's a good move all around for the Ravens. Actually, a great move for the Ravens to try to get another guy that potentially can put them over the top. What they're looking at is Kansas City. That's what's ahead of them. I mean, I know they can win. They can, the Steelers are in head of the division, but if you're Baltimore, that's right now is your goal, is to beat Kansas City. Can you tweak, modify your recipe, your blueprint, your formula so you can beat Kansas City? That's all they're focused on right now. That's probably why they're falling behind in the division a little bit. It really is. It's probably because they're not building a team to win the division anymore. Your teams used to build your team to win, to basically to be the number one. You want to be the alpha predator in that division. Right? They have the apex predator in that division. That's what you're trying to do. Set that. Then once you are the apex predator in your division, then look at where you are in the grand scheme of things in the NFC or the AFC. And for the Ravens, I think in their mind, they've moved on from the division really, and modifying the model to win the division in the ecosystem. They're not now tweaking their model just to beat Kansas City. It kind of reminds me of what Daryl Morey used to talk about this with the Rockets all the time when they were like, "Oh man," he used to be this open obsession he had with beating Golden State. He was like, "No, we are building this Rockets team to beat Golden State. Every player specifically is brought in because they have a skill set that counters what Golden State does well." And it honestly, you could make the argument it damn near worked. He came really close. They had a 3-2 lead on him or something like that. It was a 3-1 lead, 3-2.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a couple of years that you could say without injuries, it would be very, very close if you take away the injuries.
Yep, it was close, and that's what I think. The Ravens are there now. I think they're like, dude, to hell with that division. I don't even care if we win the division. We got to build this thing to beat Kansas City, and they were close again. Earlier this year, they were close, and you could make the argument now. Everybody that Kansas City plays everybody close now. That's what. They're not blowing teams out. They don't even. Yeah. That's not how they operate. That's
no. They just play the Raiders close.
Anymore. They just play the Raiders exactly. They just play the Raiders close. Like they play everybody close. You're gonna be close, but you're still so far. You feel close, but it's still so far away.
No, I did see a stat that Andy Reid with the win though became the winningest coach in Allegiant Stadium history.
Oh,
that's not great.
Oh, because they had the Super Bowl.
It's a new stadium. It's a new stadium.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not good. Not good at all. Yeah,
not good.
Not good. That's one of those ugly stats right there. With Baltimore, I think that's a good move for them. We didn't talk about the Minnesota move. Minnesota traded for Cam Robinson. It's a big move, not as sexy as the Deontay Johnson move for Baltimore, but Minnesota is still in this thing. I mean, the NFC they still can make the playoffs in the NFC, no doubt. I don't know. I mean, winning the NFC, that's a bit of a stretch because I think Detroit and some other teams may end up challenging for it. But Minnesota is definitely in a position where they can make the playoffs. And that's why they're not going to do it without a starting left tackle. They lost their starting left tackle, Christian Darrisaw, in the Thursday game last week. And they decided to make a move to acquire Cam Robinson, left tackle from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they did that for a swap of conditional picks, a conditional fifth for a conditional sixth in 2026. That's that. It shows you that Minnesota, at least they think, hey man, we can make the playoffs. That Sam Darnold actually, what he's doing right now is sustainable through the rest of the season, and they believe they can make the playoffs, especially with Brian Flores. They're definitely going to win their next game. I think they play Indy next, so that's an easy.
I got playing Flacco Indy though.
That's true.
Flacco Indy.
Yes, true. Flacco Indy. I guess they will. Yeah, if the Flacco Indy's like Jameis's Browns, then yeah, they might be in trouble. Jameis Winston's Browns ain't nothing. Man, that's not an easy win there. Ask the Baltimore Ravens about it. All right, so there you go. That's some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. We were going to get into, I want to get into some more Cowboys discussion, but we'll have time for that. I had a Cowboys nugget. We'll save that for tomorrow, and we'll dive into it. Here's a Texans little nugget I wanted to get to. We were talking about the Texans, and I forgot to share this information. And this is why the Texans have the Jets coming up, right? The Texans play the Jets.
Play the Jets tomorrow night.
Jets. Watch the pressure rate, because for 2 games in a row, we've seen C.J. Stroud have be under the highest pressure rates that he has been under since being the starting quarterback with the Texans.
Yep.
2nd straight week in a row.
Yep.
Happened 2 weeks in a row.
Jets just got Hassan Reddick finally on the roster.
Oh, and I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
And that defense is good anyway. I mean, after Robert Saleh left, they don't look as good, but that's a good defense.
No, they finally came to terms and brought in Reddick, who's been on the roster but not there.
That was such a bizarre. That was a really
No,
bizarre
and then
situation.
Reddick fired his agent at one point during all of this. That I guess he got bad advice, and I guess he went to other people, and they were like, "Yeah, no,
That's
you're
bad.
getting bad advice too. This is not."
You got a second opinion, like, oh, that's terrible advice.
Yeah, you're not doing. Yeah, everything you've done now so far, you were almost there. Then no.
No, I didn't realize he was back. That actually is troubling because CJ Stroud pressured a career high for the second straight week against the Colts, over 50%. Like I said, this one was 55%, blew past the 50% mark that they had reached versus the Packers. But this time he was good under pressure. He was 11 of 23, 148 yards, 1 touchdown, only 2 sacks. The previous week against the Packers, he was bad under pressure, 3 of 9, only 40 yards and 4 sacks. Remember what I said? Same thing about Quinn Ewers. It's all about how you handle the pressure. No quarterback is great under pressure. Maybe Patrick Mahomes, but not even Tom Brady. It is the Achilles heel and the kryptonite for all quarterbacks. What you want to do as a quarterback when pressure is applied via the blitz, organic pressure, simulated pressure, whatever it is, you want to be able to mitigate the damage. And if possible, get them into a better play or get them into a positive play. Whether it be just a quick check down or it be a quick hot route or you sometimes just eating the football and taking the sack, take the L. That was the best play you could have made. Sometimes this is the best decision you can make. It's like, no, sometimes Quinn did it in the Vanderbilt game. It's not, he was getting ready to throw. He's like, I'm like, don't throw it. He just took the L. Because he could have gotten tipped. He was under pressure, so he could have hurried the throw. It could have been an errant throw, whatever. He didn't. He's like, no, I'm just going to take the L. Sometimes it's the best decision you can make. That's your job when pressure is applied. Because all quarterbacks, they regress a little or you see drop off under pressure. And that's no different for Quinn. That was always the case for Quinn. Happened to CJ Stroud, happened to Tom freaking Brady. Patrick Mahomes may be the only quarterback it doesn't happen to as frequently. But the whole point of, or at least the emphasis should be for every quarterback. The key to the drill, as the coach would say, is mitigate the damage. Can you keep us out of a bad and negative play when there's pressure applied? If you can do that, you're already on your way to being a competent, capable, game managing quarterback. That's part of game management. Being under pressure is really when your game management skill really starts to show. Because Anthony Richardson under pressure, he's not making good decisions under pressure. That's what you need. You need somebody who can make a reasonable, sound decision under pressure. And that's hard to do. It's really tough to do. And for CJ Stroud, he was much better with that last week versus the Colts. He will have to say it again. If the Jets are looking at this, trust me, they're saying, okay, so CJ Stroud, their offensive line is allowing a lot of pressure, really high pressure rates the last 2 weeks. And they're not necessarily doing it by blitzing the Texans either. They're just doing it by, well, I'm seeing a lot of twists and stunts, and I'm seeing a lot of simulated pressures, bad communication by the Texans. That is, I think, something that they definitely have to remedy in the next game coming up this and a short week too, by the way. All right, so we come back, we'll wrap it up and put it in the oven. We'll play Who Said That. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, you have to identify and recall who said that. We'll have that right back when we come here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a One Artist Wednesday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, the Idealionaire Patrick Davis, plays jams for a specific reason, but from one specific group, artist, or band. Goes deep into that catalog, and that is the only group featured on a One Artist Wednesday. And today it is the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and we appreciate Patrick's effort and his creativity. Also, he comes up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day that is already posted at the Horn ATX on X. It is a simple question for Cowboys fans. What should the Cowboys do at the trade deadline? And right now, 59% of you say they should trade players away. And then another 19% of you say they should go all in. And so there are two very different ends of the spectrum on that answer. I think they should just make some small trades, but that is the least popular option, or the least popular option here when these Cowboys fans have voted. So none of you believe they should make small trades. All right, I get that. All right, let's get into who said that. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, you have to identify and recall who said that.
Not often that you get another opportunity like you have just received in the NFL. What does it mean to lead these guys, and what could be the start of what you said is something special moving forward?
Man, it's a white boy from Detroit that I really admire named Eminem. He said, you only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity lasts once in a lifetime. And I know I got a quote, Eminem, he from Detroit, he right up the road, but man, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that the Lord provided me with this opportunity. I'm grateful for my teammates, my coaches, and these amazing fans.
Unbelievable performance today. Congratulations, Jameis.
Oh man, Jameis is just he's gold, man. It's fantastic. Jameis Winston.
He did not quite do the they wrote they wrote me off, but I didn't write them back. It wasn't quite that line. I feel like that line went over better than the let me quote Eminem.
Line. Yeah, no, I remember that Geno Smith line, right? That was a good line from Geno. Yeah, I remember that. Yep, I like that one. But no, that's just Jameis, man. He's got a bunch of them. I saw another one. I want to say it was a post game. It was something of the post game interview he had that was really good. I can't wait to see what he does next week for the pregame speeches, for the post game. He's got some. I'm hoping he keeps winning, because he's better when they keep winning, because then he gets the post-game interviews, and then
and he also keeps the job, because then he'll be like, maybe we should get someone younger, or we'll try somebody else out in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's gonna have the job for the rest of the season at least, right?
I don't know. Who knows? I mean, if he wins, then he will. If he wins,
it's the Browns. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, but if he turns into bad Winston and throws 4 picks a game,
yeah, and then they grab him by the whatever. Winston, yeah, crab legs Winston. Right now, this is the fun Jameis Winston, one we all like, and it's fun. Which right, but it could turn dark pretty quickly. All right, there you go. Thank you for everything you do, Patrick. Appreciate that, man. You are the real MVP. Thank you guys out there for listening. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll talk about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. And until next time, hook 'em and peace.